first time since 2007, the International GTOpen Championship has an endurance race. 140 minutes plus 1 lap, 2 hours and 20 minutes of racing here at the famous 7-kilometer Spa-Francorchamps layout. This is going to be a classic. 3 pit windows to contend with for the teams as well. Lots of strategy plays to be considering here at Spa. And as you can see, the weather is starting to tease us as well. During the previous race that we had on here at the circuit, the rain started to spit ever so slightly, and it hasn't abated since. The race has been declared wet. The drivers and the cars are currently out on their sighting laps. They're trying to figure out which way they need to go when it comes to the rubber, when it comes to the Michelin tyres on their cars. You see there the grid being readied at the moment for this 2-hour 20-minute race. There's Joe Osborne. He's looking happy today, and so he should be. A great performance from himself and Nick Moss yesterday, leading to a front row start. Nick Moss will be starting the car. We know that because we just saw Joe out and about on the starting grid. We ride on board with one of the new entries just coming out of the pit lane at the moment. This is the Singha Racing Team TP12 Porsche. El Bamba, part of the driving crew for that one, along with PT Biram Bakti. Great to have new entries in the championship. All of our favourites in the 3 classes are also present and correct this weekend in the International GTOpen. And delighted to say that I'm joined for this one once again by George Morgan. And well, George, slightly different format here today, and it's going to make for a very compelling race in International GTOpen.
A lot of differences actually since the start of the championship, Adam, because of course it's the first time rain has actually ventured in this season. We didn't see it at Estoril, we didn't see it at Podium, as we now take a view from Kevin Gillardoni and Glenn Van Berlo's car. And the rain is coming down. So as you said so rightly, it has been declared wet. So we'll look forward to seeing how these drivers can marshal this approach. But naturally, we've got quite an enticing encounter. Plenty of opportunities for drivers here around Spa. We speak of these corners time and time and again. Obviously, La Source, Eau Rouge, Radion, Lecom, Malmedy. You've got the deep dive into Bruxelles, and now the new named Jackie X corner as of 2018. It is certainly splendor in motor racing, and I'm looking forward to seeing who comes out on top in this endurance affair.
It's going to be very interesting, and I think particularly these early stages, if the weather doesn't go one way or the other, if it doesn't either stop raining or indeed get worse, we're in this kind of greasy zone at the moment. It's not wet, but it's certainly not dry either. It's just in this kind of barely greasy zone where you're not sure whether the slicks are going to do what's best for you, or whether maybe the intermediates are the way forward. It's going to be a very tricky choice for the drivers here. That much is for certain. The teams will be working hard to figure out what they need to do. And of course, any driver will tell you they're okay with the rain, most of them at least. They don't mind the wet. They don't mind the dry. It's that little intermediary patch, that grey area in the middle, that drivers detest because it's so greasy, so slippery. None of the tyres work properly in those kind of halfway house conditions. And of course, the other challenge is that we've got 7 kilometres of circuit here, spread across quite a lot of land. The footprint of the Spa-Francorchamps layout is a lot bigger than, say, Estoril, where we were for our season opener. And as we've seen so many times at this circuit, you can have completely different weather scenarios, almost corner to corner.
You certainly can. It's such a vast track, as you so rightly say. You could have a patch of cloud over one part of the track, and on the other side, blissful sunshine. But that can certainly complicate things a bit, as we now watch Kevin Gillardoni marshal his car around Pouon. Oh, a bit switchy. The race hasn't even started yet now, Kevin. Come on. None of that now. None of that now. As he now makes his way down through towards the next right. And I have to say there you can see the trees there, the Ardennes forest, of course, providing very little shelter of this rain at this moment in time. You can just see it drizzling slightly on the windscreen of Kevin Gillardoni's car as he tries to warm the tyres up. Obviously, that is going to be a test for the drivers, trying to keep the car up to temperature despite cooling conditions, because this is the lowest temperature we've had all weekend. It's been 30 to 35 degrees as of free practice and, of course, qualifying yesterday. But now coming into this one, it is 20 degrees as we measured, and you saw on the graphic at the start of this broadcast. But I hope you're all well at home as well. It's a pleasure to be here at Spa. I've been looking forward to this race all weekend. We've seen lots of action, certainly at Estoril and Paul Ricard. I think we're going to see something spicy here at Spa, Adam.
Almost certainly so, yes. There are quite a few different implications here, of course, as we mentioned with the weather. Just to go back on myself earlier on, it's only dries and wets here. There aren't intermediate Michelins available. So there is indeed, in these conditions where it's greasy, there is quite a difficult decision to be made. There isn't that halfway house option in the tyres, so if the weather stays, shall we say, neutral, somewhere between wet and dry, it's going to be very tricky for the drivers and teams to figure out what they need to be in here, or be on here. Just to say some of the other differences compared to our regular format, we've got 3 pit stops here. First pit stop window starts at 28 minutes and will continue for 14 minutes. Pit stop window 2 is at 63 minutes into the race and will continue on for another 14 minutes. And our final pit stop window will run from the 98th minute through to the 112th. So a very short last stint there potentially for a few drivers as well. Also, no driver can do 2 stints in a row. So with each pit stop, there has to be a driver change. No one can go and double stint out there on the circuit. So both drivers are going to have to do 2 stints over the course of this 2-hour, 20-minute race. It's been interesting to gauge the reactions to this longer race up and down the paddock. I think a few of the AM drivers in particular slightly daunted by the prospect, but by and large, everyone very excited to go endurance racing here at Spa. We saw the number 63 of Ben Jahites there. Here is Nick Moss in the number 72 car, the Optimum Motorsport McLaren, with Joe Osborne there alongside him. Kevin Giardoni starting 3rd on the grid in the number 19 car that he shares with Glenn Van Berlo. Both Oregon team Lamborghinis look very strong in qualifying here this weekend. Carol Bash starting at the 777 Olymp Audi, shared with Marcin Jedlinski, and we'll see whether they can get a second Pro-Am victory of the season here in the double points endurance race at Spa. Florian Scholzer at the wheel of the number 33 this weekend. Bernard Laber was in the car in the last 2 events. Frank Bird there in P6, that's the Haupt Racing Team car. Great to welcome the Haupt Racing Team guys along to the International GTOpen. And the Bilstein colours represented very far up the order. Dino Steiner saying his last words there to Max Hofer before the car is sent out into the racing conditions. Young Max, such a talented driver, and he'll be looking to make up some positions in the early going. Rima Jafali will be the starting driver in the number 18 FIBA Motorsport car. Rima hasn't done any wet running in the AMG GT3 before, so this could be daunting for her if the weather does continue to worsen, although it doesn't look like it's actively raining out there at the moment. Peter Bironbakti debuting in the category as well for Singer Racing Team TP12, the team supported by Earl Bamber Motorsport, and Earl Bamber at the wheel of the car along with Bironbakti. He will take the car over later on. Steve Yans in the 911 car. We see that 10th place, the Get Speed Mercedes, the first of 3 Get Speed Mercedes that we have on the grid. That was our first 10. And it's a stellar looking field of cars here. We'll take a look at what happened last time out. So then, Paul Ricard, Adam Christodoulou getting a great start to the first race, as did Nick Moss, who tried to dive up the inside of the Oregon team Lamborghinis in the first few corners. Moritz Kranz was having to defend up against the number 19 Oregon Lamborghini. Adam Christodoulou was right there as well. We had some interesting scrapping going on as Murat Hadaroglu tried to hold on to positions in the 133 car. This was the definitive move of the race, though. Joe Osborne taking the lead and taking the win for the Optimum Motorsport McLaren team in race number 1, along with Nick Moss. race number 2, and the 72 car, qualified by Joe Osborne, was on pole position. Osborne and Fuminelli, the front row of the grid. Carol Bash getting in amongst it as well. A bit of inter-team warfare at Oregon as they scrapped towards the fringe of the top 5. Contact, meanwhile, for Murat Hadaroglu and Ben Jahites. The rear end of the Ferrari being ripped off in the second instance of contact, but no one can catch Nick Moss. He took over the 72 car from Joe Osborne and took the win despite the 20-second handicap they had in their pit stop. So then what does that do to the championship? That leaves Joe Osborne and Nick Moss on 54 points at this stage of the season. Giardoni and Van Berlo, the next closest, on 38 points. The formation lap is rolling then, George, and we are about to go endurance racing in the International GT Open.
Yeah, for the first time in a long time as well, heading out. You can see them at La Source. As we now take a look at the starting grid, folks. On pole position, it's Benjamin Hites. They're alongside Nick Moss. They are your front row. In row 2, we have got Kevin Gilardoni, also for Oregon Racing Team, with Carol Bash alongside him in 4th. In P5 is Florian Schultz, who sits alongside Frank Bird in his first round here at the GT Open Championship. P7, that goes to Max Hofer, who's currently sat there alongside Rima Jafali in 8th place. The next row, in P9, we have Piti Biranon-Bakhti, who is alongside Steve Jans in his Mercedes. In 11th is Janine Schaffner. She lines up alongside Laurent de Meus there in 12th spot. In 13th, we have Dexter Muller, who lines up alongside Murat Hadaroglu. He's in 14th place. Adam Oseka is in 15th, alongside Alexander Hurakawina, who will be hoping to continue their great form in the AM category. Further down, Erwin Zanotti in 17th, alongside Omar Jackson, who's in 18th. And last but not least, Stanislav Jedlinski. He lines up at the back of the grid.
Great strong field again then in the International GT Open. Just so you're aware as well, slightly different qualifying format that we ran yesterday. If you weren't tuned in, we used average times to determine the grid across the 2 sessions and the 2 drivers. So all of those times that you saw on the graphic there were the average among the 2 drivers, which was a nice, interesting addition to the format for this endurance race. It meant that for this race, both drivers, of course, had to play their part in getting the car onto the grid, and even across the 2 drivers we had just 200ths of a second separating that 63 Oregon Team Lamborghini of Ben Jahites and Nick Moss's Optimum Motorsport McLaren. The front row of the grid across 2 completely different drivers, 2 completely different sessions, was still just 200th of a second on average.
Very minimal, especially when you consider that the amount of cars we got on this grid. It's amazing how close they can get. And Ben Jahites, he himself will be looking for a great launch heading into La Source. You see Glenn Van Berlo watching on pensively. His teammate, of course, Kevin Gilardoni, starting from 3rd. So they'll be hoping for a big run because they're still chasing their first win of the championship. And I know Glenn Van Berlo has made it clear that despite the team's success at Estoril, they themselves are looking to get their first win on the board. They've been very consistent in terms of grabbing the big points. Hopefully, they themselves can capture something big here today as well. Certainly, Spa-Francorchamps offers all sorts of overtaking opportunities. We've seen it right through the weekend, that's for sure. Of course, time gone by in racing, we've seen it here too, as we now witness Joe Osborne there making his way out into the pit lane as we come back and take a look at the front view of that Oregon car. There you see Nick Moss, who is currently stood right ahead there of Kevin Gilardoni's Oregon racing car, as they make their way around Blanchimont very shortly down towards bus stop. The formation lap coming to an end, Adam. The drivers will be getting right into the thick of this. This is going to be fun.
So then it looks like the conditions, while very, very gloomy indeed, are certainly slick tyre weather. I don't think anybody is going to have gone for any other tyres than the Michelin slicks here today, at least not for now. We've got 2 hours and 20 minutes plus 1 lap of action here for the International GT Open. Ben Jahites on the inside and Nick Moss on the outside. We're about to go racing. The red lights will go out and we will be underway. We are now underway and they are racing. It's a good start from Ben Jahites. He will lead into the first corner. Who's going to have second place? It's Giardoni. Nick Moss getting in amongst it. He's tagged by one of the Mercedes further back. Cars off into the gravel. Nick Moss facing the wrong way. Lots of rally driving going on there, but unfortunately for Nick Moss, he's sustained damage to the rear of the car, and it's Audi warfare for 3rd place. Olymp Racing versus Aus Motorsport. Carol Bash having trying to hold off the number 3 car of Max Hofer, who was taking to the runoff area there to try and stake his claim at 3rd place. But what a shame for the McLaren team, for Optimum Motorsport. They're down at the back of the order with a wounded car, but it's a 1-2 for Oregon Racing Team, and Hofer and Bash both go running across the runoff area there at Le Com, and now Max Hofer is through. But wow, they were hardly on the track at points there in the last few moments. Karel Bash continuing to fight, and up to 5th place, Pete Biron Bakti. Great start for Pete. He picked his way through nicely, but he's just under threat now from Frank Bird, who moves up into 5th position in the Haupt Racing Team Mercedes. The order jumbled up then as everyone tried to avoid Nick Moss, but the Lamborghinis are at the sharp end.
Yeah, you can just see there Benji Hites taking back his 1st place spot off Kevin Gillardoni, who managed to sneak ahead heading into Les Combes as they now make their way down through towards turns 12 and 13. Max Hofer, who has made a gargantuan rise himself, starting 7th on the grid, now managing to get himself into podium contention. 3rd place now overall, as we now watch the drivers now make their way through towards the next right-hander. You can see as well coming into the fight, Karel Bash currently sat in 4th with Biron Bakti in 5th. Frank Bird making those early gains as well, as now you see the time start to get sorted out. Frank Bird, of course, making that move on Biron Bakti, heading in towards turn 9, and oh no, that is devastation. Certainly Nick Moss, after a wonderful weekend in Paul Ricard, as now we're seeing a little fight now further up as Max Hofer, who's not content with 3rd place, fancies maybe a move on Kevin Gillardoni heading down towards bus stop. You see the defensive operation from Gillardoni as Hofer goes hunting. He can't find a way through just yet, or can he? Side by side on the exit of bus stop chicane as now they make their way out, but not quite enough. A little twitch there as they work their way through. Karel Bash also into the fight. I tell you what, it's on the tip of my tongue. We've got a battle still to come.
Absolutely. Well, we saw Nick Moss unfortunately not able to get around the lap. He was parked down there at the end of the heritage pit lane, the old pit lane that we're now driving past here at Spa. Looks like Nick Moss's day sadly is over before it's even got started. A huge shame for the Optimum McLaren crew. There must be something more intense than what we've seen damaged on that car. Nick Moss would certainly limp the car around if he felt he could. Benji Hites then leading the way from Kevin Gillardoni at the moment. Max Hofer getting his way up to 3rd place on that 1st lap of the race. We've already seen he's not content with P3. He's going to try and get around Gillardoni, and certainly he's looking threatening once again as they go through Le Com. He seems to have great confidence in the Aust Motorsport Audi here at Spa in these conditions that are still ever so slightly slippery and treacherous, as we can see the corner speed not quite up to what we'd expect in optimal conditions at the moment. And Gillardoni ran it ever so slightly wide there. Wheels on the painted curbs, I think, just struggled for turn-in. And now Max Hofer trying to find a way around it. Pouon looks to the inside, finds the door a smidge open, and he kicks it down. He's up into 2nd overall, and here comes Karel Bash. He wants a piece of this as well. It's 4 5.2-litre V10 machines at the sharp end of the order. 2 of them are Audis, 2 of them are Lamborghinis, and Max Hofer is through into 2nd place. Karel Bash is the next one to try and challenge Gillardoni.
What a moment indeed. A great move from Max Hofer. Managed just to make the switch happen, heading in towards Pouon. I bet Dino Steiner had a smile on his face when that move was executed. And now you can see the Hofer in 2nd place, now chasing Benji Hites now for that 1st place spot. Karel Bash also wanting to get into the thick of things. Now we've seen how quick this part of the track is heading around Blanchimont corner. Can he get a run heading down towards bus stop? Because that might be the opportunity. Oh, dearie me. And that is a very early pit for Florian Scholze. Well, looks, there could be some damage on the car. It certainly looked a little wonky there, Adam. I'm wondering if the chassis is okay, or maybe it's a case of tyres.
Oh, that was a tyre down there, and perhaps a tyre missing. It was dragging along on the right front corner. Here's the battle for 3rd place then. Karel Bash all over the back of Kevin Gillardoni. Gillardoni looking to the inside. Surely he's got the inside for La Source. Yes, he does. Textbook stuff. Can Gillardoni, though, come back at him? He's got a better run out of the corner. They're side by side as they run down towards Eau Rouge and Radion. Gillardoni back ahead. Will there still be a nose up the inside from Karel Bash? Yes, there is, and Gillardoni bails out of the 2-wide situation, and that's going to allow Frank Bird to get involved. Frank Bird off the track there, trying to get around the slow Gillardoni, who lifted off the throttle midway around Radion. And, well, that does put Frank Bird up into 4th place. Garel Bash up into 3rd. Just a circle around back to Florian Scholze in that 33 Team GT car. He was the car that tagged Nick Moss. And, well, looking at the amount of damage that Florian Scholze had on the Team GT Mercedes, I'm maybe less surprised that Nick Moss's McLaren wasn't drivable.
No, absolutely right. And Florian Scholze now suffering at the hands of it, now down into 18th place. Garel Bash, though, no fear, heading up through Eau Rouge and Raidillon, managed to make it happen. And he's now starting to make moves, looking to try and get closer to Max Hofer, who in turn, in fact, has managed to close gargantuanly on Benjamin Hietz. That gap now sits at just over 7.5 tenths of a second. The Audi's certainly looking in good shape. You've got 2 on the podium right now as things stand. Further back, you can see Bird and Ghilardoni coming together too. But here is Max Hofer chasing on the rear of Benji Hietz. This is for the current lead of the race, of course. And Benji Hietz now rounding this next right-hander. So tricky here at Spa in places, and certainly rain would have complicated things ever so slightly. Puts a little bit of slickness undertow on those tyres, as now you're seeing Max Hofer trying to make a charge, and we've seen how quick he can be heading in towards bus stop. We saw him and Kevin Ghilardoni come together earlier on. Now he fancies the other Oregon car as they make their way down towards bus stop after this corner at Blanchimont. And there you can see now the Audi urging closer and closer and closer as Hietz still holds on in front. A late break now. In comes Max Hofer, and he herfs it straight into P1 as well. Maximum effort here from Max Hofer into P1 indeed. Hietz now into 2nd place.
What a move from Max Hofer, then up the inside at the bus stop. Textbook once again from Max Hofer. He has been on fire since this race got started. What a drive it has been thus far. I remind you, that car started 7th on the grid, and he's already up into the lead within the first 10 minutes of racing. Of course, aided a little bit by the scramble from everyone to avoid Nick Moss, but nonetheless, sensational performance to this point from Max Hofer. Benji Hietz will have the benefit of the slipstream on the run up the Kemmel Straight this time. Will it be effective enough to pull him up alongside before Lecombe? No, it will not. He's not close enough to the rear end of the Audi at the moment. And the Aust Motorsport Audi looking incredibly strong, and just allowing past there was Frank Bird. I think Ghilardoni being allowed back through. I think that's probably because Frank Bird made the position up off the track. I think that's probably why that was happening there. The team making a judgment call, and that has been confirmed on the timing screen. Here's a replay of the incident. There were 2 bits of contact there. There was an initial moment that caused Nick Moss to spin, and then secondary contact between the Team GT car and the Optimum McLaren. But you could see there on that replay, the suspension on the McLaren was bent inwards after that second bit of contact. So both cars very heavily damaged after 2 instances of contact. Of course, we saw the Lamborghinis side by side at the sharp end of the order. We're on board now with the Biron Bakhti-driven Singha Porsche. Let's take a look at what happened here. And there you see the McLaren in a spin, and you see Max Hofer benefiting wonderfully from the inside at La Source. This is on board with Frank Bird. Let's take a look at what he saw. That's the first instance of contact. There goes the McLaren in a spin. I think a little bit of a love tap there to Frank Bird's Mercedes as well. And that was how Max Hofer got through into 2nd place a couple of laps later. Of course, now he is our race leader in the number 3 Aust Motorsport Audi. This is how that looked from Ghilardoni's view. There's an Audi. Through it goes, and unfortunately, Kevin Ghilardoni couldn't do anything to challenge, and very soon he'd have more problems from the Vorch technique section of the paddock, as the Olymp Racing Audi of Garel Bash also managed to dispatch that Lamborghini. And of course then he lost a lot of momentum up the hill, up Eau Rouge Kemmel Straight, but eventually Frank Bird was asked to give back 4th position, even though he did profit from Ghilardoni's hesitation up the hill. And here we see the move that was made for the lead once again. The number 3 car, the Aust Motorsport Audi, is our race leader now. courtesy of Max Hofer's blinding opening stint to this race. 1.5 seconds to the good at this stage, and extending the gap lap on lap. Max Hofer is on a mission. Wipers briefly on there for BELGIUM, and we can see spits of rain on the camera that I don't think were there before either. So the rain seemed to have gone away and stopped threatening us for a moment, but it's still just lubricating the race surface slightly, and things could get very sideways. Meanwhile, Adam Osaka with a move there for 7th overall. This is an all get speed battle. The 3 get speed Mercedes running in unison at the moment. Adam Osaka, the team boss of get speed, just dispatched Janine Schaffner, and now Schaffner under pressure from Steve Jans. Oh, please make space, Adam Osaka will be thinking as he looks in the mirrors, and the two of them still side by side as they head to Jackie Hicks' corner. Janine Schaffner defending against Steve Jans with everything she has. This is a battle for 5th in Pro-Am at the moment, as well as 8th overall. And there goes the 911 Mercedes, the pink peril. Steve Jans is through into what is now 8th position.
Absolutely, I would imagine Adam Osaka, you're absolutely right, just twitching in his car there, just looking in the rearview mirror saying, don't crash at all. But no, they gave the room, and luckily enough, some good respectful racing there. Well done indeed to both parties. But yes, what a start to this race it certainly has been. But got to give credit to Frank Bird on that evasive action heading out of La Source after that major incident at the start. Of course, had a very small gap to squeeze through, and managed to do it, of course. I mean, at that very start, you could just see the amount of cars that got clogged up in all the action. Obviously, unfortunately, Nick Moss and, of course, Joe Osborne will not be able to figure for the rest of this race. And as a result, Florian Scholz got picked up in it too. So a shame to lose those two. Rima Jafali making moves. She's now up into 10th spot as she's now moved past Dexter Muller. That timing screen has just been updated for you folks at home as well. Max Hofer in the lead. Hitez in second. Now 2.4 is the gap. Max Hofer is flying.
He really is, yes. Here we get a look at what's going on further back. Dexter Muller all over the back of Rima Jafali at the moment. Of course, the SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes is that number 54 that we're looking at just there. We might have been an error for Dexter. Yeah, he just ran a bit wide. Rima Jafali didn't need a second invitation to jump through into 10th place. Of course, SPS Automotive Performance actually ran the FIBA Motorsport car in the first round at Estoril while the team was still being set up by Rima Jafali and her crew. But now they are sworn rivals on the circuit within the Pro-Am class. BELGIUM there in the 2nd position at the moment, and he is the latest Lamborghini to come under fire from an Audi. Carol Bash under pressure, or pressuring, I should say, the back of that 63 car of BELGIUM. The 63 Oregon team Lamborghini, the car that was our pole sitter, courtesy of the efforts of Hitez and Pulcini. Had a brief look there into the garage of Adam Osaka's 786 Get Speed Performance Mercedes. Great to see that everyone's on tenterhooks, as we are. The weather seems to be trying to make up its mind for what holds in the next 2 hours. The race is unfolding very interestingly at the moment, with Max Hofer getting away at the head of the order. Also worth noting, there was a black and white flag shown to the 777 car on the previous lap, so I think already Carol Bash may be testing the track limits a little bit as well. You've got to be careful of that. We've seen penalties in other races so far this weekend if they do test the track limits too far.
Yeah, absolutely right. You can't afford to lose the time, and you can certainly imagine in a race such as this, every margin counts, that is for sure. Max Hofer still leads, Hitez in 2nd. Carol Bash, as we can see on our screens, trying to close down on BELGIUM as he now makes his way down towards the bus stop chicane. Carol Bash representing the Pro-Am category with their team at Olymp Racing. And as they make their way through this next section, heading down through towards the first corner at La Source. Once again, there you can see Max Hofer again leading the way in picture right now, in behind BELGIUM as well. Further back, Gillardoni keeping Bird at bay. Frank Bird obviously looking to chase for that P4 spot, and that gap is currently stagnating at 0.8 per second right now, though it does seem to be closing as they now head down towards La Source. There we can see the picture of Carol Bash as they now make the climb up through Eau Rouge and Radi on such a beautiful section of this circuit here at Belgium. We had the pleasure of standing upon it on Friday, and it was certainly a wonderful view indeed to see it all the way from La Source all the way up to that point in the track, and reaching this highest elevation point leading up through towards this next section at Les Combes. Very intriguing to see. We can see there's a little battle happening between Omar Jackson as we now pan the cameras across. And you can see he's managed to get past Dexter Muller for that 11th place as they now make their way out to La Source. So Muller finding it a bit hard out there right now, Adam.
Yes, he is. These kind of mixed conditions that we seem to have, just the slightest greasy drizzle that seems to arrive every few minutes. It's challenging Dexter Muller. Omar Jackson then has managed to get through, battle for 11th place at the moment. Omar Jackson currently second in the AM class. Dexter Muller, of course, a Pro-Am car, sharing with Yannick Mettler the SPS Automotive Performance number 54. The 77 currently up in 11th place. This is a really good first stint for Omar Jackson. Of course, he will have been working hard along with his teammate, his driver coach, Charlie Hollings, this weekend. I know Omar was not the most enthusiastic member of the paddock about the endurance race format. I think 2 stints in such short order he saw as a bit of a test, but he's absolutely passing at the moment with just a few minutes of the race complete. He's already up to 11th position, and he's holding off Dexter Muller well at the moment. Shout out as well to Erwin Zanotti there in 13th place, just behind these two. He's trying to find a way past Muller. Here's Dexter Muller. Oh, he went very, very, very wide coming through Blanchimont there, and he did very well not to lose that completely. Almost a Kimi Räikkönen 2008 Belgian Grand Prix scenario there, where you just launch the car off into the barriers coming out of Blanchimont. Dexter did well to hold it, but now he's running wide again, and that's surely, God, Dexter Muller really is pushing the limits here, and he's managed to get past, or rather Erwin Zanotti has managed to get past him, but Dexter is in the wars here today.
He is. He just made the slightest contact is just enough to upset the balance of the car, and now as a result he is losing time after time, and there we can see the replay now as they come around this next right. Of course, very testing at this point in the track. Obviously campus corner, just dip the rear into the gravel, and that allows Erwin Zanotti through into that 12th place. So Dexter Muller down into 13th. Omar Jackson, like you say, going off your comment, running a great race right now, started P18 on the grid, now up into 11th place. So he's managed to successfully whittle his way through the field after that major incident at the start of the race, and that's what you need to do, certainly in races such as this, and teeing up a really good potential stint here for Charles Hollings. Let's wait and see what he can deliver too. As you can see, the Singer car further up as well. They're making their way through, currently on their own, in fact. They haven't got lots of cars around them to test them right now, so they've got some nice clean air as they now make their way down through towards the next right-hander. Scenes in the garages as well, very pensive. Earl Bamber watching on. He will, of course, be stepping into the Singer seat this afternoon. And he'll hope as well that the track does make up its mind. I can imagine that the drivers are sort of developing different ideas, different possibilities that could happen in this race, because of course we've got still 122 minutes. Anything can happen in that time.
Absolutely. Ferrari warfare. Omar Jackson up against Erwin Zanotti further back. Erwin Zanotti in his 2nd season of GT3 racing, raced in the Italian Championship last year in a Honda NSX. Raced for the first time in a Ferrari with us at Estoril, although he didn't actually get to take the start or take any time in the races, of course, because Stephen Earl had a huge crash at Estoril before Zanotti got a chance to race at Estoril, so he finally got to make his race debut in a Ferrari at Paul Ricard, and of course as a young Italian racer he loved that moment. He is now trying to get himself around Omar Jackson, who's withstanding the pressure nicely. Of course, both of these cars are out of the Kessel Racing camp, even though they've got drastically different liveries, and Omar Jackson pressing on here in that 77 car. You see there, it's dusty in places, as well as ever so slightly greasy on some of the curbs, etc., etc. Certainly these are challenging conditions for everyone involved. Omar again running it a bit deep at Campus Bend, and that could be the opportunity Erwin Zanotti needs. Dexter Muller continues to wait in the wings as well. He's not out of this by any stretch of the imagination. Great entertainment here in the battle for 11th overall. This is also the battle for 2nd in the AM class, as Erwin Zanotti continues to hound Omar Jackson.
He does indeed. He's getting closer and closer by the moment. Omar Jackson going very wide, heading out of Blanchimont corner, now down through towards bus stop. You can just see there's Zanotti having a look down the inside, maybe just showing in his mirrors as Dexter Muller, though, comes fighting back and look to go side by side, try to at least, heading into bus stop. As now a very good run indeed from Zanotti, as he now looks to go side by side now with Omar Jackson heading in towards La Source, and now the pressure on Jackson as now they make their way into this hairpin section. As you can see, they're looking to maybe switch, but not this time. May choose to do so, heading out to the source now, heading up through Eau Rouge and Radion. Now this will be the big test. Can Zanotti hold the pace coming through Eau Rouge and Radion and then make a charge heading up the Kemmel Straight? Let's wait and see. Omar Jackson still holding his own in 11th, second place in the AM category. Zanotti will be looking to take that plaudit away, but here comes now Dexter Muller, who wants to come into the fight now, looks to go side by side here with Erwin Zanotti. Omar Jackson can see this battle in formation in his rear view mirror as they now head in towards Les Combes. Dexter Muller outside, can he find it? Not this time. No, he had to back off slightly, look to go in the rear of Zanotti's car, but that Ferrari does hold on to his position in 12th place, sorry.
Dexter Muller there in the Mercedes, of course. That's a front-engined car relative to the mid-engine Ferrari. I understand that the balance through Eau Rouge Radion is slightly better in the front-engine Mercedes than the mid-engine and rear-engine cars that it's competing up against. And I think that may have helped Dexter Muller on the run up the hill, up the Kemmel Straight, but unfortunately couldn't quite make the position on that occasion. We are approaching 21 minutes completed in this race. We've got less than 7 minutes before the first pit window opens. So certainly the likes of Omar Jackson, Dexter Muller will probably bail out fairly quickly after the pit window opens to pass over to their, well, not pro drivers in the case of Charlie, because of course that 77 car is an AM entry, but certainly Omar is the AM of the two, as it were, because Charlie Hollings is a professional driver, and he will probably be doing the lion's share of the race, all told, when it comes to the 77 car. But Zanotti, also a young career-minded racer, of course, moved up from Formula 4 to GT3 competition. He will probably stay out in the 11 car for a little while once the pit window has opened. Just getting a look there at the battle for 6th place. Karel Bath still hasn't found a way past Ben Jahites just yet. Max Hofer has extended his lead to 6.4 seconds, and actually his last lap was the fastest that we've seen all day long, a 2:19.5. The fastest lap of 2:19.534 to be specific. For that number 3 car. Max Hofer is cooking on gas at the front of the order, building the lead. I'm sure Dino Steiner is somewhere between elated and a little bit nervous.
I'd imagine he's got a right smile on his face, but there you can see now this battle continuing now between that of Jackson and Zanotti. Zanotti now closer to Jackson than what Muller is to Zanotti, though that can all change because here comes Dexter Muller in the Mercedes, now heading up this straight as they now head up towards Les Combes. And as you can see, Jackson still in front, but I tell you what, Muller looks like he's in a great position to make this move happen, heading into Les Combes now, and he gets himself in front ahead. Oh, so close, no, just could not quite do it. He came back straight back at him there, Zanotti, but this time Muller hanging, oh, so close again. Almost a repeat of what we saw on the previous lap, Adam.
Goodness me, Dexter Muller, he braked a little bit too late there into Les Combes, couldn't quite get it stopped. This is a great battle between Zanotti and Muller. You just see there, asked a bit too much of the front tyres on the AMG, of course, with the slight greasiness that seems to be prevalent, particularly up at Les Combes, with the occasional spit of rain. You also will have a bit less stopping power than you would have in normal circumstances, so perhaps Muller not quite anticipating the weather on that occasion. It's certainly, again, not a wet track, it's barely even a greasy track, but there are just certain points in the lap that look a little more treacherous than they would in dry conditions at the moment. And Dexter Muller, you can't say he's not trying, he's always pushing on. And oh, Max Hofer there having to take to the runoff at Eau Rouge Radion. He came across Stanislav Jedlinski there at the worst possible moment. And Max Hofer, I think he'll be very happy for the fact that there's more runoff these days at Eau Rouge and Radion.
I think he will be. Certainly a moment that he wouldn't want. Certainly not a regular occurrence, to say the least, but now lapping Stanislav Jedlinski at this moment in time. There you can see in picture Carol Bash getting closer as well to BELGIUM for that second place spot. The Oregon car now facing all kinds of peppering here from the Olymp Racing team as now they make their way through this next right-hander, down the descent now towards this next right. We have an instant replay. This is the moment where Max Hofer made the charge, got a very good exit, of course a better exit than what Stanislav Jedlinski had, and of course that meant he had to take the row off to take evasive action, avoiding the crash.
That was certainly a heart-in-mouth moment for Max Hofer. We were talking about that wry smile on Dino Steiner's face. I'm sure that disappeared for a few moments just there.
He went white.
Yes, indeed. And now the Olymp cars together, the Olymp Ferrari and the Olymp Audi, as Stanislav Jedlinski gets lapped by this battle for second place, and Karel Bash trying to take the opportunity here to get past BELGIUM, kicking up the dust as they go through the Fania S's. Towards what was once Stavolo, these days known as Campus. But Hites, to his credit, has fought Karel Bash every inch of the way, and so far he's been on top. Great scrap between the two of them. Of course, you hear the similar sounds of the engines. The engines are all but identical in these cars, but different philosophies to building these racing machines. Certainly, Ingolstadt, of course, the home of where Audi do their development work. Big moment there for Karel Bash. It's Bologna versus Ingolstadt then in this scrap for second place. At the moment, Bologna are on top, but the Audi certainly looming large as Karel Bash continues to use the Olymp Racing Audi as the very effective tool it is. This young Polish racer really is a GT star of the future, and he's showing us why here. A dive up the inside. They somehow don't make contact with each other, but BELGIUM again manages to stay ahead. Every time it looks as though Karel Bash has done it, Hites has an answer.
He certainly does. Karel Bash, I tell you what, he's been electric. Certainly in the last few laps, you've seen him just all over the rear of BELGIUM's car. They come up through Rouge and Radion yet again, but I get a feeling now Karel Bash will have a chance of a lifetime now to take that P2. Let's wait and see. They go side by side once again. You can see there Hites defending to the inside to try and thwart the approach from Karel Bash, but it's not enough. That Audi now up into second place. His patience, well, I say patience, he was the aggressor earlier on, but it's paid off for him. A flick of the rear, and he makes his way around Malmedy in second place. Well done indeed. Olymp Racing now have gained a spot. They're now up into second.
Next time these cars come past the pit lane, the pit window will be open. Just on a minute before the pit window opens for the first time in this race. And we'll see who bails first at the sharp end. I don't think we're going to see any imminent stops out of the top 5 anytime soon, but we may see the likes of perhaps Janine, Steve Jans. They could both decide to pit on the first opportunity. We'll have to wait and see. 14-minute window here as Rima Jafali manages to make her way past Janine Schaffner. Rima Jafali through into 9th overall with that move. That's also 5th overall in the Pro-Am class, but there's certainly some damage on that FIBA Motorsport car. I think Rima may have been involved in that first lap skirmish to some degree. Of course, that car was further down than we expected it to be in these early stages of the race, and Rima Jafali showing a few cosmetic wounds on that front grille of the Mercedes, but they are purely cosmetic. Hopefully that car's still just as sweet to drive as it has been all weekend.
Yeah, she was right in the thick of it at the start, had to really try and weave her way through around Nick Moss's stricken McLaren at that point, and you're absolutely right, certainly carrying a war wound there of sorts, but hopefully, like you say, cosmetic and not affecting the performance necessarily of the car as they head through turns 12 and 13, and again kicking up the dust, heading through now around the next right-hander at Campus, where now they'll take Paul Frey. Oh, wow, okay, that's the Singer Motorsport car, and that belongs to Piti Birambakti, who's now dropping down the field. An incident heading around Paul, well, nearly around Paul Frey, didn't quite make it that far, but spun the rears by the looks of it, spun the car, and has now got himself back on track, but not a good moment. In comes the Oregon car of Kevin Gillardoni. He is now going to be making his first change. Glenn Van Berlo taking the seat. So these are the first of the driver changes, Adam.
Okay, so interesting. Van Berlo into the car at the first opportunity. Jordan Love is also going to take over the number 4 car on behalf of Frank Bird. Here's a look at what happened to Peter Biron-Bakti. He had Stanislav Jedlinski ahead of him and maybe just took his eye off the ball while figuring out where he was going to do the lapping. And eventually that's dropped him from 6th place all the way down to 10th. Looked like he had to fight to find a gear to get the car back underway. More pit stops ongoing. Adam Christodoulou will be taking over from Rima Jafali. She is in. And Moritz Kranz will take over from Janine Schaffner in this number 9 Get Speed Mercedes. They are also into the pit lane. So Schaffner handing that car over to Moritz Kranz. And there you see Adam Christodoulou being installed into that number 18 FIBA Motorsport car. Here comes the Love and Bird car, now with Jordan Love, the Australian driver, the former Porsche Carrera Cup Australia champion, taking the wheel. So this is the 55 car. This is Jamie Stanley hopping into the 55 AF Corsa Ferrari. Omar Jackson, I think, has gone for the wrong pit stall there. That's going to cost him a few seconds, potentially, as he hands over to Charlie Hollings. But you see the stops coming in thick and fast. Martin Conrad, the Bathurst 12-hour winner from earlier this year, being installed into the Man Filter Team Landgraf AMG. A very, very busy pit lane.
Certainly is. You can see all the cars in there. The pit crew's working very, very hard at this point. There's Carol Bash right now making his way down through towards the bus stop. Let's see what he decides to do. He might choose to stay out and make the most of it right now. Certainly in behind there, you can see the Team Oregon car coming straight in. And that is, of course, Benjahites now who will make way now for his teammate Leonardo Polcini, of course, off the back of that superb qualifying session they made to start on pole. So now the pressure's on. Can Polcini gain any ground on what Max Hofer has already landed in?
Well, let's see what happens here. Of course, there's a bit of a double-edged sword here for the sharp-end drivers at the moment, because, yes, the likes of Max Hofer and Carol Bash in those two Audis, they are the pro drivers in the Pro-Am entry. However, of course, they're now coming out into the traffic. Prime example here. And it's not very slow traffic. It's Adam Christodoulou. And Christodoulou is getting right in amongst it. And, of course, I guess it makes sense that Adam Christodoulou would want to maybe duel it out with Max Hofer. Max Hofer is a Pro-Am entry, of course. So it's all for position in class. And certainly Christodoulou and Hofer there were at very close quarters. Christodoulou there was going defensive. I think Adam might have thought he was in a race there, you know. I'm not sure he quite got the memo that the blue flags were for him as Max Hofer came out of the pits. Of course, the blue flags may not have been displayed at all for Adam Christodoulou as the timing screens and everyone picks up on what the situation post-pit stop. But that is a prime example of what I was just talking about, is that, you know, if you are the race leaders here, you've got cars coming back out from their pit stops right in front of you, and sometimes things can get quite hairy as a result.
Yeah, it certainly can. The bunching up of traffic, we've certainly seen it before when it comes to this kind of racing. That's true. No true word has ever been spoken. Carol Bash certainly in second place. We'll be hoping that more hindrances like that happen for Max Hofer so he can close the gap, albeit though he will not want to be inflicted himself in that affair. Iseka is currently in third place. He, of course, yet to come in. Owen Zanotti is now also ahead of Polcini, because Polcini will be making his way on his outlap, obviously leaving the pit lane at this point after replacing his teammate Benjahites. And we've also got Jordan Love, who has come in for Frank Bird as well. So many changes being made. Adam Christodoulou currently positioned behind the other Oregon car of Glenn Van Berlo. Of course, we saw him fighting it out, should I say, not necessarily for on-track position against the likes of Max Hofer, and they are scrapping, obviously, in the Pro-Am category, as you did allude to. So I tell you what, we can see here, drive-through now for car 3. That's Max Hofer for overtaking off-track at turn 4. Perplexing stuff, Adam.
That's the top of Radion. I saw a couple of minutes ago on the timing screen that it mentioned cars 3 and 5, so that would have been the moment where he had to avoid Jedlinski. So that's certainly, I think, an interesting call, and Hofer has seen the harsh end of the steward's button there. He's been told drive-through penalty, my friend, and I imagine he'll have to serve that before Dino gets into the car as well. So we'll have to wait and see what's gone on there, but certainly the move, the lapping did take place off track, so I think there's very little room for argument there for the Aus Motorsport team, but we'll see how long it takes for Hofer to make that call to come in. Adam Christodoulou, meanwhile, having having a scrap with Earl Bamber. Earl Bamber trying to go all the way around the outside of Adam Christodoulou's Mercedes. Of course, Adam Christodoulou, an overall winner at the Nürburgring 24 hours. Earl Bamber twice an overall winner at the Le Mans 24 hours. So it's Nürburgring versus Le Mans in a sense here. Certainly both drivers hugely versatile, hugely successful in GT racing, and in Earl's case as well, a lot in prototypes as well. What a great scrap this is. The class of driver we have here in the International GT Open Series really is a treat, and Earl Bamber looks hooked up in that Porsche at the moment. The gap between Christodoulou and Bamber a few sectors ago was just 1.1 seconds. However, it's certainly not that now as the two of them go running up towards Blanchimont. The Porsche looking threatening in the mirrors of Christodoulou.
Yeah, and he'd be looking for a good run now out of Blanchimont. There you can see the Mercedes of Adam Christodoulou. Of course, that's tasted multiple victories in the Pro-Am category this season. Now, once again, we can see them make their way down through towards the bus stop chicane, and the Singer car now around the outside. Earl Bamber goes for it here at bus stop. Can he hang on? Oh, not quite. Adam Christodoulou, very feisty, fighting back at this point, saying, no chance, mate, as they make their way down through towards La Source. There you can see ahead the car belonging to Max Hofer, taking it around La Source. Incoming now, the battle of Earl Bamber and Christodoulou, heading around this next section out of La Source, powering outwards. Now the almighty climb beckons shortly out of Eau Rouge and Radion. The Singer car now looking to try and sing today here coming through Spa, as now you can see Christodoulou with all sorts of car right behind him here. It's looming large, and Earl Bamber, oh, off track slightly as he now rejoins, now making his way through Radion. Very shortly the Kemmel Straight. Adam Christodoulou still holding firm, but for how much longer? Earl Bamber, a flash of the lights, a twinkle as they now head up through towards Les Combes. Looks to go inside, just showing in the mirrors there, giving Adam Christodoulou something to think about, but not quite in a position to execute the move straight away.
Oh, there goes Bamber's opportunity though, but he's pushed it too far. They're both in a spin. Bamber looked to the inside, coming out of Les Combes and into Malmedy. He got into a spin of his own accord on the apex of the corner, and both of them are beached into the gravel here on the exit of Malmedy. And well, drama at Spa, no doubt about that. And two cars in the gravel, that could well be a safety car if we're not careful. Certainly yellow flags at the moment. You see there's lots of gravel on the racing surface as well. Elsewhere, good scrap going on here. This is Jordan Love under pressure from Glenn Van Berlo for 7th overall at this stage. Both of these cars have already made their first pit stops of the race, and it is the Australian Jordan Love in his International GT Open debut, holding off the number 19 car of Van Berlo. Erwin Zanotti is in to hand over to Stephen Earle as well. So this is now a battle for 6th place. Safety car has just been deployed this second. Safety car is out. So then, quids in for those who haven't pitted yet. That's going to be significant. Well, well, well. The first twist of the tail here at Spa-Francorchamps. Question is, can either Christodoulou or Earl Bamber get the cars running again? I think Christodoulou may have ended up in the barriers, unfortunately. Here's a replay at the moment. Bamber tried to get up the inside, started to lose the rear end. There was a little touch, rear fender to rear fender between the two of them. Both cars sent into a spin. Unfortunately, Earl Bamber just couldn't quite keep the Porsche in lockstead there, and it's cost both he and Adam Christodoulou. Well, it was a great scrap. It was a mighty scrap. Neither driver was giving an inch. Unfortunately, both of them are now a mile off the circuit.
Yeah, getting it out of that gravel trap is going to be another challenge as well, certainly, in venturing into that barrier. I'll tell you what, questions certainly to be asked, I'd imagine. I hope as long as the drivers are okay, that's the main thing. Certainly in motorsport, as we're now watching, certainly they make their way down through towards bus stop. We've got this contingent of cars further down. You could see there Martin Conrad trying to work his way through, and, as we can see in picture. And of course, Adam Oseko, who's still yet to box as well. Obviously in the midst of the fight, you alluded to the fact that the safety car could cause a complication there. Out comes the crane. So those cars not finding their way back onto the circuit as it stands. So the crane has been brought out to aid them removing the cars off the circuit. But certainly full yellow course conditions here at Spa. Now, what could this develop into, Adam? Because, of course, this will bunch the field back up again. So effectively, any gains that Hofer made, it's going to be nullified.
Yes, certainly. Another replay at the moment here. Ironically, I think two of the drivers who would have benefited more than anyone are the drivers we see on screen there. If the field had bunched up in a safety car and Christodoulou and Bamba could have capitalised on it, it would have been huge for them, of course, because the gap that they had between themselves and the sharp end of the overall order would have been dissipated by the safety car. I think the likes of Moritz Kranz there in 8th place, it will suit him down to the bone. He's just taken over that number 9 Axiom Space liveried Get Speed Mercedes that we just saw there in front of the 777 Audi. And he's currently running 8th overall, and that will be a huge positive for him that he can now run with the rest of the cars ahead of him in one long queue. He'll be able to try and pick them off, although there's no mean feat looking at some of the drivers that are there in front of him, the likes of Seb Bold just ahead in the 911 car, and of course Polcini, Jordan Love, Glenn Van Berlo, etc. So the safety car has picked up the leader, and of course the pit window is still very much ongoing, and that means that there's a lot of lapped cars kind of in amongst the queue at the moment. We've got 2 minutes until the driver's change window ends, so this time by, Max Hofer, Karel Basch, Adam Osaka are all going to have to come in to the pit lane. There's no two ways about it, so the top 3 are all going to bail. Definitely a good scenario, I think, for Adam Osaka as well, potentially, although I'm not sure, actually. I might hesitate on that, because they will lose a lot of track position with this as it stands. But, well. This safety car is going to mix up the order further, mix up the state of play, and just getting some word from down in the pit lane from Pablo, part of the International GTOpen social media team. He's let me know that finally, officially retired is the Optimum Motorsport McLaren suspension failure. I mean, we saw that the rear of that car was looking rather disjointed after the second impact with the Team GT Mercedes. So hugely unfortunate that car is no longer going to take part in this race. Our championship leaders out of the race at this stage. And that, of course, means that if you're really either of the crews over at Oregon team, and indeed in terms of the overall championship, it must be said as well, Jafali and Christodoulou, they're right up there in the overall championship too. All 3 of those crews can profit significantly with the Optimum Motorsport car confirmed to not score any points today.
Yeah, huge day for Oregon as things stand. I mean, obviously, the way the safety car is strung out, Max Hofer is still not yet boxing. He will do at some point. Obviously, the top 3 still yet to pit. So we've got to factor in the fact that now Leonardo Polcini should take the lead of this race, should the restart occur. So we'll have to keep our eyes peeled. Obviously, right now, Max Hofer leading them around. Basch in 2nd, Osaka in 3rd, Polcini 4th, Jordan Love in 5th with Glenn Van Berlo in 6th. So Oregon very much up in the fight because they've already made their changes. Sebastian Boe in 7th with Moritz Kranz in 8th. They've already changed too. So a big factor certainly in the Pro-Am category there, because Sebastian Boe and Moritz Kranz will be right up there and fighting. The Moritz Kranz certainly making the switch for Janine Schaffner, who did the initial stint. Charles Hollings has also made the switch too. So figure of speechly, he should come out leading the AM category as well, because of course it was Omar Jackson who came in and made the swap there. So lots happening out across the grid, obviously still under full course yellow conditions with the safety car out and about. You can see them aggressively trying to warm the tyres up. Of course, a cooler day in temperature aside from what we've seen the last couple of days, so the drivers have now got to take matters into their own hands firmly when it comes to warming these tyres up, certainly. And the track itself, I'm sure, not as hot as what it's been across the last couple of days, and certainly will be cooled now with the safety car out and about. There you can see the work still being carried out on Adam Christodoulou's car and Earl Bamba as well. You can see the marshals there working very hard with the crane out on track, the fire and rescue trucks also there just to try and marshal the current situation.
And I think that Bamba's about to drive off. So I think you may still be allowed to continue on in this race. Don't believe we have the Le Mans deal where if the car is recovered, that's it. It's not quite like that here. So Earl Bamba will be able to continue on potentially, albeit several laps down at this stage. Adam Christodoulou was still there, fully helmeted as well, next to the Thieber Motorsport car. So I think both guys intent on getting the car to continue. And of course, we've got a long way to go here. 96 minutes of racing still left to run. Points still on the table, especially if you're Adam Christodoulou. Points still on the table. Of course, Earl Bamba that car is not a regular in the championship, but I mean, we alluded to it with Joe Osborne's retirement. If Adam Christodoulou and Rima Jafali can score some points today, then that would be huge as well for them. But it is going to be tricky given they were embedded into the gravel trap. And there's a replay of the start again. That second impact that we just saw there is what broke the suspension on Nick Moss's McLaren. The toe in was far too exaggerated after that second impact. Sadly, suspension failure on that 72 car. Brought on by some contact. And here we see some of the highlights from this first hour of racing, or not quite hour of racing yet. This great battle we had between Giardoni and Carol Bash. Side by side, they went through Eau Rouge and Radion. This, of course, was Frank Bird trying to find any way he could to get past Giardoni and eventually have to give that position back. Meanwhile, it's been a mighty drive to this point for Max Hofer. Dexter Muller has been in strife so far in this race, it's safe to say. He's now handed this car over to Yannick Mettler, who currently sits 10th overall. But certainly Dexter has been finding the limits, I think it's safe to say, at Spa in his first stint. Had a great scrap, though, with Omar Jackson and Owen Zanotti in the opening phase of this race. This was a big moment. Max Hofer finding Stanislav Jedlinski in the middle of Eau Rouge and Radion. Had to bail out of the corner to try and not crash into the back of the number 5. However, he did make the move off track, and that was considered to be a drive-through. And this is why a safety car is out at the moment. El Bamba's Porsche just stepping out on him as he tried to get to the inside of Adam Christodoulou. Both cars ending up in the gravel trap. I don't believe Christo has managed to get back into the car or get the car running again yet. I know that Rima and the Thiba Motorsport team will have their fingers crossed at the moment that hopefully again they could maybe score some points as this day wears on. If not in the overall championship, then certainly in Pro-Am, if they see the flag, they can get some points. But it is hugely unfortunate for both parties that those two cars ended up in the gravel. And unfortunate for us as well, because it was a great scrap between Bamba and Christodoulou up to that point.
It was, and it was a pleasure to watch. It looked like Earl Bamba didn't quite get it didn't look like the move was on the table at the time when we were commentating leading into Les Combes, but it certainly looked like he had the pace heading into Malmedy, which is where he tried to execute the move, obviously taking the inside line. Christodoulou trying to marshal him off, and obviously these things happen in racing, certainly motorsport. You know, these are very competitive guys, and obviously wanted to do their best for their teams. As you can now see them all nose to tail, leading each other around, and you've got to give them, each of them, credit. Charles Hollings will be pleased. He's in the top 10 as well. As you can see, still the cranes at work, and you can see now, is that Christodoulou getting inside the truck?
It is, yeah, that car's on the flatbed, so unfortunately, FIBA Motorsports Day is confirmed as over with that sighting. And Adam Christodoulou out of the race then. Adam and Rima will have to leave the double points race at Spa with none, and that's going to affect their overall championship. More importantly, it's going to affect their Pro-Am championship. That is the way the dice sometimes land in motor racing, especially in wheel-to-wheel combat. Seems that Earl Bamba's car is A-OK. He hasn't brought it back into the pit lane. He's rejoined the safety car queue and continued on, of course, as a safety car confirmed in this lap. Of course, I did say, I'm pretty sure Christodoulou's car may have even tagged the barriers, so maybe the car is damaged. It certainly went a long way into the gravel trap. But it seems as though the FIBA Motorsport car is not able to continue today, which is a huge shame, but they'll be back fighting at Hungaroring next month when we go back to our regular format of 2 races a weekend. The first time since 2007 that the International GTOpen has had an endurance race in the calendar, and it certainly does make for a compelling added element to our season. 2 hours and 20 minutes of racing here today. If you're just joining us, we're definitely doing things a bit differently this weekend at Spa. So it's Max Hofer who is set to lead the field away here from the safety car, but of course Max Hofer still hasn't pitted yet, so quite how that's going to be managed. Of course, the window shut during the pit stops, window shut during the safety car period, so I'd imagine that the likes of Hofer, Karol Bash and Adamo Seika, the three drivers who haven't yet pitted, are all going to have to get into that pit lane as soon as possible. And in theory, that would leave Leonardo Polcini as our race leader, and it would leave very few cars on the lead lap as well. Max Hofer then gets underway and does indeed immediately peel into the pits. Karol Bash, though, continues on. Very interesting. Okay, so Adamo Seika presses on as well there in the 786 car. We've still got two drivers who started the race in the car. Meanwhile, it is the number 9 car that leads the queue. With the way this safety car has affected the standings, a lot of drivers are now 1 lap down. Everyone from 8th place down is 1 lap down, and that includes Moritz Krantz, more or less. The current race leader, Karol Bash, is right behind him. So Moritz Krantz, I was saying that he would benefit from this safety car, but actually quite the opposite has happened. He got caught in a bad part of the safety car train. He came out just behind the leaders after his pit stop, and that's put him on the back foot for the remainder of this race. So very compelling, the situation that we've got at the moment, but Karol Bash confirmed as our race leader for now, due into the pits though, surely any minute.
Yeah, absolutely. So Moritz Krantz now thrown right into the eye of the storm because Karol Bash is going to come at him as well. Currently sat in P1 on top order right now, of course, leading the contingent with Adamo Seika in behind Karol Bash right now, as our screens display. Polcini in 3rd as well, being chased by Jordan Love, who is currently sat in 4th on track 2. There you can see the mix-up in the grid order as they make their way through. And as we ride on board with Glenn van Berlo, who has got Jordan Love dead ahead of him right now. They'll make the in-swinging downhill left off Pouon. And once again, you don't want to tread too heavy on the curbs. You can see there a slight twitch there, indeed, from Jordan Love's car. As they now make their way through our very tight wheel-to-wheel action here now. As you can now see Adamo Seika being pressurised here at this point. You can see them, just look at them all nose to tail. And further back, the Team Landgraf man-filter car of Martin Conrad getting thrown right into the fight as well. It's all, I tell you what, bunching up. Now this is exactly what you referred to with cars getting mixed up through the order. You can see the Oregon cars right in behind as well, Adam.
Yes, that was Adamo Seika trying to find a way past Stephen Earl for what is currently 3rd place in the AN class. And well, let's see how that one unfolds. Here's Van Berlo trying to get around Jordan Love. This is for 4th and 5th place. We've got different battles going on different laps of the race, and it's creating quite the lack of space at the moment. As you can see, the mad scramble going on here. Oh, goodness me. Where's the real estate? There isn't any. Jordan Love, though, capitalising because he's side by side with Polcini. Polcini scrambles to get around the 11 car side by side between Polcini and Love for what is now the race lead, because Karol Bash is in. So this is the battle for the lead that we have here now. Polcini defending up against Jordan Love. Jordan Love trying to pick his way through the traffic here. Adamo Seika has pitted, so has Karol Bash. And so that means that everyone has now made their pit stop. Of course, at one point the 777 car was due in for a drive-through penalty. I don't know whether or not that's been served or not, but the pit window was extended. So the pit window was due to close at 13:24 local time. It's currently 13:22. So because they had that safety car period, the window was paused. Therefore, no penalties for those slightly longer stints than we were expecting under normal circumstances. Kevin Giardoni and Glenn van Berlo still, or rather Glenn van Berlo at the wheel of the car, started by Kevin Giardoni, still pressuring the back of Love, as Leonardo Polcini is trying to make headway through some very fast traffic. That's Martin Conrad, he's no slouch at all. But finally, Polcini finds a way past the man-filter Team Landgraf Mercedes. Oh, a snapshot of the Nürburgring 24-hour there. A Bilstein car up against a man-filter car. And Jordan Love getting past Martin Conrad, as well as he tries to pursue the leading Lamborghini of Leonardo Polcini. That was a mad scramble in the traffic just a few moments ago at the bus stop, George. thankfully, everyone managed to stay out of each other's way.
It looked very much like a rolling race start, to be honest with you, making their way down towards turn 1.
Indy 500 style, 3x3.
It was, yeah, very much like that. Yeah, it's absolutely right. Dino Steiner now in the car, replacing certainly Max Hofer, who made the initial burst. Obviously, unfortunately, the way things stood out for him there was the moment which led to the drive-through penalty that they received from the stewards. And unfortunately getting caught up in that heading through Eau Rouge and Radillon. But there you can see now Charles Hollings making his way through the bus stop chicane as well. He, of course, thrown right into the thick of the action. 10th place currently in terms of the overall standings. In terms of where they are in the AM category, currently sat in 2nd place. Kiki Saknana currently leading that contingent in overall 6th. As now you can see them all now peeling away from bus stop. Leonardo Polcini, our current overall race leader, now starting to gun down upon that of David Fuminelli, who is currently in 11th. And you can now see them just coming through this next right now. Driver change has officially come to an end, and Jordan Love now starting to be roamed up upon by Glenn Van Berlo, Adam.
Yeah, Van Berlo lost the position, or rather lost track of the back of Jordan Love, what with the mad scramble to try and find track space in the approach to the bus stop, bouncing over the Eau Rouge and Radillon curbs there. They both go, and Van Berlo in the slipstream here of the big Mercedes. And let's see if he can maybe take a look to the inside line. I don't think he's quite going to be close enough towards Lecombe. No, he's not. He was closing inch by inch on the run up the Kemmel Straight, but couldn't quite do it. However, he's got the run now into Malmedy. He's got the inside line. Very nice overtaking move. Kind of a repeat of what we saw out of Adam Christodoulou and Earl Bamber, only this time successful on both counts. And Glenn Van Berlo up into 2nd place, and there is Earl Bamber trying to unlap himself. Earl Bamber picking his way through the order, making up for lost time. And, well, once again, the pace of Earl Bamber can't be overstated, but very interesting to see him in amongst the leaders, albeit 3 laps down at the moment. As we see there a replay of the move from Glenn Van Berlo up into 2nd. It's once again an Oregon team 1-2 in the sharp end of the order.
They're looking very strong right now. Glenn Van Berlo getting the move done, and ahead of Jordan Love as well. Polcini has managed to string out a bit of a flick there from Jordan Love, got his rears there, just stuck slightly in the gravel. Further up you can see Earl Bamber now trying to, as you so rightly say, trying to unlap himself right now. Certainly every journey starts with a single step, Adam. This journey is going to be a big one now for Earl Bamber. He's going to be sending this car right through Spa as he now makes his way through towards this next left-hander out of Blanchimont very shortly, this very high-speed left-hander. And he's starting to room up now on Glenn Van Berlo. So, yet again, another huge effort required from Earl Bamber.
Yes, well, he's some 3 laps down. Put that another way, 21 kilometres down. Certainly not going to be a contender for an overall podium, potentially not even a Pro-Am podium either. But, of course, these guys at the Singer Racing Team TP12, they're on kind of a bit of a European tour at the moment. They're taking part in events from numerous different championships, including us here in the International GTOpen, taking in some of the finest circuits in the world, and I believe they are doing the Spa 24 Hours next month as well. So there is certainly an argument to be made that they just want some track time, they want some mileage as well. But I think it's more than just that for Earl Bamber. He's still pushing. Maybe a bit of a redemptive thought in the back of his head. There you see David Fuminelli running 10th place overall at the moment and 5th in Pro-Am. We briefly saw the 133 car there. And of course Fuminelli, who's often been one of the quickest drivers out there when he's at the wheel, sharing the car with Murat Hadaroglu. And certainly for Polcini, it's actually quite a good barometer of what he's doing at the moment, having someone like Fuminelli just ahead of him. And maybe Fuminelli, as they start to close in on some other drivers, might clear the way a little bit for the Oregon Lamborghini as well.
Yeah, Fuminelli himself is no slouch. I mean, his performance at Estoril, of course, netting the very first pole position of the championship as well. It was certainly superb to watch, and managed to catch up with him earlier on. He was very pleased with his efforts in qualifying, securing fastest in Q1, of course, and he was delighted, certainly with the speed that he was showing. So very well versed, obviously, with this circuit, and already posted the fastest lap as well at this point. So doing a very, very good job indeed of making up the time and certainly trying to fly around this circuit. And you can certainly imagine he will do just that. Currently 4.2 seconds away. Well, he's dipping it down again, 3.5 in fact away from Charles Hollings, who is in 9th spot. So he'll start trying to work his way through the order right now. And I'm sure, without a doubt, Fuminelli will be the man to pounce.
Of course, the interesting thing about this safety car and the delayed pit window, etc., is that it doesn't delay the rest of the pit windows. Driver change will begin again in 4.5 minutes' time. So I wonder if we are going to see again some of the Pro-Am cars that currently have the AM at the wheel, whether they're going to bail out quickly, hand back over to the Pro and optimise the race time for the Pro driver. Of course, the AMs, it's always a tricky balance for them because they pay for the car, they want some track time, but also they want the trophies at the end. And often, in order to do that to the optimum, you need to swallow your pride a little bit and admit that the guy who gets paid for this is often a little bit quicker.
Well, you know, it's a bit like a poker match, isn't it? How do you want to play your cards? But you know, it's an element of risk. Obviously, these drivers are going to be well versed to it. As we're seeing, Earl Bamber started to once again try and make some moves through the field. Obviously, he needs to keep on pressing. As now we're seeing the 911 Mercedes start to make its way through. Sebastian Boe being chased, of course, further back. But there you can see Earl Bamber's car, the Bilstein livery. I know it's one of your personal favourites, Adam. Of course, we've seen it across the world of motorsport. They're very applied feature across endurance and, of course, GT cars as well. So I imagine it's no stranger to see this car here at Spa.
No. It's a livery that's been adorned to many a manufacturer over the years, particularly at the Nürburgring 24 Hours. See Audi, see Aston, see Mercedes. Lots of Bilstein liveries over the years. In GT racing, I think it's the first time we've had such a car in the GTOpen Championship, though. And certainly one for maybe the die-cast collectors and such in years to come, pointing to myself in the commentary box at the moment. There's Christian Koronovsky then in the number 5 car, the Olymp Racing Ferrari, of course. Olymp Racing are running 2 different manufacturers this season. They've got the Audi, they've got the Ferrari out there on the circuit. Of course, that Ferrari is an AM-class car, so that's not expected to be as quick as the 777 car, currently driven by Marcin Jedlinski. Jedlinski running 5th overall at the moment and 2nd in Pro-Am behind Sebastian Boe. Sebastian, again, getting the really good run of things when it comes to how that safety car affected the pit window. The top 4 drivers there or thereabouts, rather, it was about the top 7 drivers were on the lead lap and everyone else was a lap behind. Then, of course, some other drivers had a pit stop to fill after the safety car came in. So we ended up with this kind of gulf between the first few cars and the chasing pack at this stage. And it's an ever-increasing gulf between the top 2 as well, because Leonardo Polcini is really pressing on there. He's gained 3.5 seconds of gap over Glenn Van Berlo.
Yeah, he's very strong indeed. Van Berlo, of course, now has also sprung a gap between him and Jordan Love. That gap is mirroring the gap between Polcini and himself, and it stands at 3.5 seconds. Just incidentally, team manager's car 133 to report to race control immediately. So that's David Fuminelli's Kessel Racing car. So interesting to see what they've been called out for at this point in time. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see. But obviously, at this moment, it's Polcini currently leading the way, Van Berlo in 2nd. So a very good-looking day for Oregon. There's Marcin Jedlinski in his car now, making his way through this next right-hander. Of course, decorated in the Audi that was driven by Karel Basch at the start. We saw his pace searing at the very start of this race. Unfortunately, undone by the safety car. The plan wasn't filled through by Karel Basch. He had such a lead that it was stripped away at that very moment. So unfortunately now it's up to this man to certainly try and wheel it back in. And this is where strategies certainly get tested, Adam.
Absolutely right. There is the 777 car then of Jedlinski. And, well, don't forget, this is the only other car so far in the Pro-Am season to have taken a class win at Paul Ricard in race number 1. This, incidentally, is our AM class leader, Kiki Saknana, the Thai drifting sensation on the world stage. Until about a decade ago, switched his focus to circuit racing and is currently leading the AM class, I'm sure, with a beaming smile across his face, as he tends to wear in the paddock. But just to finish the point about Jedlinski and that 777 car, 2nd in the points, the only other team to have taken a Pro-Am win. 6 points between the 777 Olymp car and Rima Jafali and Adam Christodoulou's Theba Motorsport machine in Pro-Am coming into this one. Of course, with the Jafali and Christodoulou car not scoring any points here today, given they're already retired, that could be huge in a double points race for Jedlinski and Bash and their Pro-Am title hopes.
Yeah, it'd be huge in the Pro-Am Championship, that's for sure. Of course, Martin Conrad will be also looking to try and make some moves for the AM category, because of course they've been all mightily successful with a first place AM win at Estoril, doing 2 at Paul Ricard, so 3 in total, and you can imagine that they'll have big things on their mind. In comes Jordan Love now, and they're going to be making their next stop. Driver change on, so in comes now Frank Bird back into the car, and they'll very shortly be making their way out again soon. So this grid will be sorting themselves out very, very shortly. More and more will be coming in, I can imagine, as we now see the cars now make their almighty climb up through Kemmel. And there you see, there's our race leader, Leonardo Polcini, car number 63, heading into Les Combes now. And leading the contingent of Oregon cars now that are listed Ps1 and 2 with Glenn Van Berlo in second. In comes the Kessel Racing car as well. As you know, see the teams now make their driver swaps. This is Stephen Earle and Erwin Zanotti. And Stephen Earle getting into the car with Erwin Zanotti now coming out.
Other way around. So Zanotti's getting back in, having started the race. And Stephen Earle, the good doctor, has exited the practice and will be back in a little bit later if you need to give him a call. The number 11 car of Stephen Earle, of course, the American racer who comes over. He makes the trip across the Atlantic from his Texan home. Yeah, all 7 rounds of the year.
Superb moustache as well.
Absolutely, yeah. He's one of the great characters of the paddock. He's someone who's done a lot of racing here at Spa as well. And if you ever get the opportunity to have a chat with Stephen Earle, it's always entertaining. You never quite know what story you're going to get, but there's always a story. And there is the number 4 car heading back out onto the circuit then, once again with Frank Bird at the wheel. The Olymp Racing 777 is back in. So Karol Bash will receive the car once again. Marcin Jedlinski going to hand over once more. Jedlinski wasting no time getting the young Polish prodigy back behind the wheel. Bash went straight from karts into Lamborghini Super Trofeo racing, had a career in GTs in mind all along, and has had a stellar run of things in his young career so far. You see there the 786 car, the AM leader is in. Dino Steiner also wasting no time to hand back over to Max Hofer. And Steiner out of the car, Max Hofer back in. Of course, this car has been in the overall lead at various points in this race, and we'll have to see where they shake out. They'll be primarily focusing on the Pro-Am win, but certainly a competitive team. They won't be with us next time at the Red Bull Ring, but we are expecting them back. We're not seeing them at the Hungaro Ring, but we are expecting them again at the Red Bull Ring and a couple of other events this year, doing a partial program with us in GTOpen this year at Aust Motorsport before maybe dipping their toe in a more significant fashion come the 2023 season. I know that Dino Steiner very much enjoys his time here in the paddock. Very friendly team as well, Aust Motorsport, and the more we can welcome them in, the better, I'd say. There is the 63 car, Leonardo Polcini, 5 seconds clear. The gap has gone out again to Glenn Van Berlo, another 1.5 seconds or so over the last 4 laps. Van Berlo still being pressured by Earl Bamber. Bamber continuing to set the fast laps here in his Singha Racing Team TP12 Porsche. Pete Birambakti waiting in the wings for his second turn at the wheel of this car.
Yeah, heading through. Earl Bamber trying to urge himself closer and closer. And of course, Earl Bamber will be very much enjoying this visit to Spa-Francorchamps. Obviously, wouldn't have enjoyed the trip into the gravel trap with Adam Christodoulou earlier on, but nevertheless, still out and about and trying to fight and work his way up through the order. Obviously, has a lot of work to do, given the fact that he is a few laps down. And of course, trying to dispatch Glenn Van Berlo will be the top of his list, that's for sure. Heading out through this next right. And they'll then make their way out of Paul Frere into turn 16 before they then reach Blanchimont. Here's turn 16 now. This is Van Berlo, and being hot on his tail there, you can see Earl Bamber also right behind him. Now through turn 17 at Blanchimont, you can see this very high-speed section of this circuit before then you reach the heavy braking point at Bus Stop. And very, very opportune moments for overtakes here at this particular point of the track. We've seen a couple already in this race. Certainly when we saw that big car park earlier on with all the cars sort of flittering their way through, it was absolutely marvellous to see, as we did allude to the rolling restart, and you alluded to the IndyCar start too.
Yes.
But incredible. As we're now seeing Earl Bamber head into the pit lane, and no doubt will be making his driver change. Piti Bhirombhakdi will step back into the Singer car, and they'll soon be back out and running again.
Yes, indeed. So Earl Bamber out of the car, Piti Bhirombhakdi in. Piti, we talked about Earl Bamber's accolades as a two-time Le Mans 24-hour overall winner. But I should say as well, Piti Bhirombhakdi, a champion in his own right out in the Thailand Super Series. A driver who has competed with Kiki Saknana in the past as well. They've done some scrapping over the years in Thai GT racing. And great to have the Singer Racing Team Porsche with us this time around in International GT Open. Polcini then continuing on. We've got 8 minutes of this pit window left to go, the second of 3 pit windows in the race. And we'll see how long it's going to be before Polcini comes in. I think he'll probably push it to somewhere towards the end of the window. Looks like he is firmly in the groove at the moment, but in amongst the traffic right now. I say the traffic, but of course these are, as we've established, very quick drivers currently in even the AM cars. Of course, Charles Hollings, a GT champion in his own right, there in the 77 car, which currently leads the AM class in this pit cycle at the moment. I should imagine that by the time Charles Hollings hands back over to Omar Jackson, it will no longer be the leading car in the AM class, but certainly right in amongst it. It's going to be so interesting as this race goes on, with that safety car happening when it did, having the effect on the field that it did. A lot of these class battles are really not an unknown as such, but very hard to predict and follow because they've all rather been spread and separated by that safety car, some of them ending up almost a lap down on their class adversaries. Polcini at the moment isn't worried about overall position as much. He's worried about Charles Hollings not really making it particularly easy for him, and he bails out of the situation. He said, you know what? No. Benja, you take over. Benja, he says, will now take the wheel of the 63 car with just under 70 minutes to go. 70 minutes is, of course, usually our longest race of the weekend. We usually have one 70-minute race, one 60-minute race. But we've already been running for over an hour at this point, 2 hours and 20 minutes plus 1 lap here today. And for the second time in the race, Benja Hites is about to get behind the wheel of the 63 car.
Yeah, getting strapped now. And Benja Hites now will get himself strapped in. Leonardo Polcini fresh after his first stint and managing to cultivate himself a positive performance, of course, but Glenn Bamberlo staying out now takes the lead of the race. We've got a little fight now happening further down, and this is for the AM certainly classification. Jamie Stanley on the rear end of Martin Conrad's Team Landgraf Manfilter car, now heading their way through this next section, up through Radion, and now the Kemmel Straight, and now you can see them literally nose to tail, the gap thinner than a fly's eyelash. Here comes now Jamie Stanley, outside line in the air, of course, Ferrari hitting in towards Lecom, getting so tight. Martin Conrad very nearly tried to squeeze, but not enough to defend against that of Jamie Stanley, who now moves himself up in the AM category. Wonderful job. Aram Malmedy, he's now ahead.
Yeah, second in AM, sorry, my apologies, getting my Ferraris mixed up. The AF Corsa Ferrari, they're up into second in class. Of course, Charles Hollings, Jamie Stanley, sharing with Laurent de Meus at the moment. Laurent de Meus, who is a Belgian racer himself, spends a lot of time in the UK, but he is a Belgian native, and he'll be looking to have a strong result here on his home turf. And Jamie Stanley moving up into second in class will do that effort no harm at all. Just behind them at the moment is Carol Bash, back at the wheel of the 777 car. Bash on a mission at the moment. He will have to hand the car back over shortly. 4.5 minutes there or thereabouts. Sorry, of course, they've already made the second stop. Never mind. Carol Bash actually in a very good position at the moment, because he's already been behind the wheel of the car for a while, since Jed Linsky, I think, probably was in the car for 10 minutes total, if not less, for his first stint, because of how the safety cars played out. But Carol Bash is going to want to profit from this, isn't he? He's going to try and set qualifying lap after qualifying lap. I think that's probably the objective, probably the directive from the team down at Olymp Racing. Push, push, push they'll want an overall podium if they possibly can, as well as a Pro-Am win.
Yeah, you certainly would think so. You can see now Glenn Van Berlo making his way out of La Source. And there we can see we're right on board here with Glenn Van Berlo. We're still leading the way. Of course, the other Oregon racing car has already made its driver change at this point. Benjahites getting in. Of course, Kevin Gillardoni will be the next man to step into this car once again. Glenn Van Berlo now making the climb up this high elevation point of the circuit here in Francorchamps, leading up towards Les Combes. It gets so perilously high at this point, then in towards the next right-hander, entering this very, very quick chicane, of course, and heading through the next left. Now this will tee you up perfectly for Malmedy, and you can see him not even missing a beat here, Glenn Van Berlo, looking very measured indeed, heading down now through towards this next right-hander at Brussels corner. And as he does so, around turn 8 he goes, hugs into the inside. This will then lead him around the Jackie X bend, as named as of 2018. And now heading through this section, takes a lot of the exit, the curb on the right-hand side. Always lovely to see a driver's view heading around a track such as Spa, as he now heads through towards Pouhon. Again on swooping rounds, taking again a curb on exit. Now pole-axed his way through round the apex of that corner, leading down through towards turn 12 and 13 at Lavagné. And as he does so, just trying to aggressively wrestle the car around that point. Just saw him twitching and correcting as time went on, leading down through towards this next right-hander at Campus at turn 14. Paul Frere at 15th is next. And again, just graze the curve on exit. He'll take a lot of this one, can take some of the runoff as well. The green strip on the left-hand side of the initial curb. And then heading around this next left-hander at turn 16 with Blanchimont to follow, this very fast-paced. You can pretty much leave your foot down near enough. You certainly will do. Glenn Van Berlo not leaving any stone unturned, takes some of the runoff too. As a result, now heading down into the heavy braking zone point at bus stop. In comes now the Axiom Space Get Speed performance car. Janine Schaffner will be getting ready to take over at this point, and Moritz Kranz will bail out of the car. Unstrapping, you can see the car up on the jacks, tyres changed at this point. It's now Janine's turn to take over.
Yeah, Janine Schaffner will be behind the wheel of the car for the second time. She started the race, of course, the veteran of the Nürburgring, a champion in the Nürburgring Endurance Series last year. And we'll see how she performs in this second stint. Busy pit lane once again. We've got 1 minute and 20 to go until the window shuts, so everyone has to take their opportunity now. Laurent de Meus getting back behind the wheel of the 55 AF Corsa Ferrari. There's the number 5 car in 2. That'll be Stanislav Kwiatkowski getting behind the wheel of the number 5 once more, and Alexander Krakowina back behind the wheel of the Manfilter Team Landgraf Mercedes AMG GT3. Here comes Kevin Guillaume. Nope. Benjahites, sorry, he's already handed the car over, of course, as Leonardo Pulcini. So Benjahites at the wheel for the second time at the car that will, once all the pit stops have been served, once again be the leader of the race, one would assume, although we'll have to see where 19 car comes out relative to the 63. 10-second penalty for track limits given to this car. Kevin Ghiardoni, who's just now receiving the car. Unfortunately, it probably wasn't him that did it. He's only just gotten back behind the wheel, but unfortunately the track limits penalty has been given, and it's quite a mighty one as well. 10 seconds worth of time penalty. I believe that will be added to the end of their race time, so that could be hugely significant for their efforts here today. And Ghiardoni down in second place, and well, now he's got a bit of a different dynamic. He's going to have to keep an eye on the stopwatch to make sure that he's got that 10-second advantage over whoever's behind him.
Yeah, driver change window has come to an end now at this point. We can now see the cars now making their way down through. Well, certainly this one, that of course being driven by Kevin Ghilardoni. Unfortunately, the receiver of that 10-second time penalty, this car, of course, that we can only imagine was during Glenn Van Berlo's stint. So obviously getting addressed for track limits. Of course, the stewards have been very busy this weekend, obviously just watching and observing what happens out on track, as you would do on any other race weekend, that's for sure. Currently standing at this moment in time, Benjahites in front. You can see him there just sort of letting fly at this moment. Dexter Muller just trying to leave some room. You can just see them getting very close together on the exit, but not providing any hindrance there for Benjahites, who now can make his way through and hold on to his advantage, trying to work his way through the field of back markers that are behind him. And there is Carol Bash. Oh, little flick off the rear of the car, and was very lucky to keep hold of that. These curves can be so treacherous, certainly the sausage elements of it, just on the inside. If you take that, it gives you a lot of elevation and therefore can really unsettle your car.
Yes, it can. Absolutely right. Let's run you through the order as soon as the timing screen has settled down after the latest flurry of pit stops. I'm just going to hold station until this car comes across the line. The 63, Benjahites, crosses the line now as our race leader. The 19 car, Kevin Giardoni, at the wheel of the sister Oregon Team Lamborghini, sitting second place, and about 9 seconds back from Benjahites at this point, make that 9.7 seconds at this stage. In third place, we have Frank Bird at the wheel of the number 4 Bill Stein Haupt Racing Team Mercedes AMG GT3. Steve Jans is currently 4th overall in the Pro-Am leading Mercedes out of the Get Speed Performance stable. And in 5th place, we have the AM leading car, the ones that profited, I'd say, more than anyone from the safety car in the first pit window. Adam Osaka at the wheel of that car again now, that he shares with Kiki Saknana, the 786 Mercedes AMG from Get Speed, 5th overall at the moment, and still on the lead lap, albeit I think about 1 minute and 50 back, all in all. Meanwhile, Janine Schaffner making things quite difficult at the moment for Benjahites. We keep half an eye on this before we move on to continue talking you through the order. And Hites still not quite found a way past Janine at this stage of the game. Of course, every corner where he's stuck behind Schaffner, he's losing time to the cars behind. He'll be eager to press on, looks to the inside line, no move made. I'm not sure if Janine Schaffner's fully aware that she's not having an overall scrap here.
No, well, it's interesting because these little battles out on track can be just as important as the ones for position, because, of course, this is a time implication now for Benjahites. Of course, his teammate behind him, Kevin Gilardoni, who's currently in second, is obviously the recipient of that 10-second time penalty. That still won't matter to Hites. He's going to want to keep pushing at this point. You can see as a result, the time gap between Gilardoni and Hites has come down quite dramatically as they now make their way up through towards Blanchimont. Janine Schaffner still holding her ground at this point, as we can now see Hites make his way down through towards the late braking zone. He'll probably try it now, heading into the heavy braking point at bus stop, and he will execute and make his way through as well. So this will allow him now to press on. He's got clean air ahead of him, at least for now, and he'll make his way down towards the source. In mind, you can see there Dexter Muller just in the back of our picture, with Kevin Gilardoni following suit. As I said before, 7.3 seconds, and Hites is going to want to marshal some time on that. Check that again, it's 6.5.
There you go then, interesting stuff there in that little scrap for what was not an overall position, just track position. And Janine Schaffner eventually seeing Hites past. 5th place, as we were saying before, overall is Adam Osaka in the AM leading car, 1 minute and 59 back from Benjahites at this stage. Max Hofer is 6th overall, 2nd in Pro-Am at the moment, and some 1 minute and 40 seconds back from Steve Jans, the 911 Get Speed car, another car that's benefited massively from the safety car intervention in the middle of that pit window. Hofer, as I said, 6th. Janine Schaffner 3rd in Pro-Am at the moment, and just a couple of seconds clear of Dexter Muller. That could be a big reason why she wasn't exactly keen on rolling over for Benjahites, because Dexter Muller isn't a million miles behind before, and those two seem to have scraps every time we head to a racetrack in International GTOpen this year. Dexter and Janine have had a couple of dices in their Mercedes AMG GT3s, and the SPS Performance car, 8th overall, 3rd in Pro-Am at the moment, in the hands of Dexter Muller, is closing in on Janine. 9th place overall and 5th in Pro-Am at the moment is the car of Sorry, the timing screen's just having a bit of a moment there. It seems as though Carol Bash car, the 777, has got, I think, a transponder issue. It keeps going up and down the order and catching me out. But Murat Hadaroglu rounding out the overall top 10 at the moment in the 1-3-3 Kessel Racing Ferrari. Per what the timing screen is saying at the moment, I believe that Carol Bash is actually 5th overall at the moment. Second in Ferrari, which does track, but it keeps zigzagging up and down the timing screen. But that's where it is, albeit about 50 seconds behind the Pro-Am leader at the moment. This car's 3rd overall, though. Frank Bird at the wheel of the Pro Class car, just behind the 1-3-3 of Murat Hadaroglu at the moment, who's about to get put a lap down by Frank Bird. Frank Bird, who's always a busy character, has got multiple championships on the go this season, as is so often the case. Just trying to negotiate his way around, not successfully doing so, mind you. Murat Hadaroglu. Hadaroglu standing his ground there. Eventually, Frank Bird does manage to get through. So it's only 20 seconds between the top 3 at the moment, 7 seconds between the 2 Oregon Team Lamborghinis at the head of the order. But the way that safety car played out did spread the field in some way earlier on. And we are well into the final hour of racing at the moment, 55 minutes to go. It's going to be interesting to see how that next pit window affects things. That will be the last pit window of the race. 13 minutes and 45 seconds until the final stops are in the books, or can start to be put in the books.
Yeah, absolutely right. And of course, I can only imagine the look on Kiki Saknana's face right now, because he's currently obviously on form, or on course, should it remain as it is, to land their first-hand win of the championship this season. So you can only imagine what his beaming smile is going to be like. You've seen him in the pit lane this season, and he's been so excited to partake in this championship. And always likes to put on a show and a performance, and likes to take part, really competitive, but at the same time enjoys every moment. Adam Aseka as well, very much part of this. We just saw a flick of the dust there from Frank Bird coming out of Jackie Ick's corner. He's now making his way through this next left-hander at Pouon. And of course, dressed up in that Bilstein livery, down through in towards the next right-hander. He's coming up to the Singer car there, that's currently sat further down the order. Of course, Piti Virabhakti, who's currently behind the wheel of that Earl Bamber we saw earlier on, trying to make some ground in that car as well. There's now seeing the 911 Mercedes of Steve Jans currently executing its way around this next step. Ran very wide around turn 13, in fact, but still able to keep it on the track. Got perilously close to the gravel, though, on exit, but still kept it under tread. Now heading through this next right-hander round in Paul Frere, and he'll very shortly venture down through towards Blanchimont after turn 16. But I have to tell you, folks, what a grid order we have in front of us. Benji Hites still holding on to that first place stint in the pro category, and overall, of course, Kevin Gillardoni second. Oregon looking very, very smart right now, albeit, though, Kevin Gillardoni with that punishing 10-second time penalty, which I'm sure they're ruining at this moment in time.
Oh, great minds think alike with the director. I was just watching the timing screen there and thinking, second and Am is getting very close. Laurent de Meus under threat from Alexander Krakowina, perhaps. And sure enough, visual confirmation. Here comes Alexander then in the 25-man filter Team Landgraf car at the moment. Laurent de Meus taking over from Jamie Stanley, pressing on at the moment. And Krakowina wants to try and find a way past for second place. Very hilly circuit this, Spa-Francorchamps. I reckon that suits Alexander Krakowina to the bone, because he is, in his spare time, a bit of a skier and has a very high-octane lifestyle. As he put it to me, this is probably the most sane thing I do with my time, racing a GT3 Mercedes around circuits all across Europe. That tells you all you need to know about Alexander Krakowina, currently challenging for that second place in the AM class. And I must say, Laurent de Meus looking really strong here this weekend at Spa. I'm sure he's done more miles here at Spa than some other circuits, given his Belgian roots. But certainly, I think weekend on weekend, de Meus is improving significantly. Yeah,
definitely. There you can see the deltas coming right down. And, you can see lap by lap, Alexander Krakowina managing to really pull it. Lap 33, 32, 1.5 tenths, 2.5 tenths, then lap 32. But now we can see Laurent de Meus finding that yellow looming large in behind that. That's of the AF Corsa Ferraris here through Les Combes. And Alexander Krakowina, of course, part of the man-filtered Team Landgraf car that would go on to win 3 AM races this season. And I've always been jubilant, always fun to interview this team when it comes to the podiums, as I've had the pleasure to do so now on 3 occasions with this particular team. It's wonderful to watch them perform, and certainly they'll give off a great performance here again, but they've got a little bit of work to do, because Adam Osaka and Kiki Sagnana are currently in 6th overall, but not just that, you've got to factor in the point that they are currently leading this AM category too. Lauren Demers, though, going off what your point, certainly looks calm, composed, and very confident in the car this weekend. I can just see him rounding Poo on, still marshalling the gap, albeit Rakowina bringing that time down, but it's something else executing that overtake.
Yeah, absolutely right. So you've got the aero wash to consider. There's all sorts of complications once you get to the rear of a car, and Francorchamps currently trying his best to find a way through. We've also got potentially a move on for 6th overall in the imminent future, because Adam Osaka is under pressure from Max Hofer out there on circuit 2. So there's a couple of overall scraps going on at the moment, but of course this one isn't just overall, it's for class as well. 2nd in class at the moment, Alexander Francorchamps trying to find a way through. Here is the scrap I was talking about. Adam Osaka under pressure from Max Hofer at the moment then. Osaka, very wily, experienced head. I'm sure he won't do anything too reckless to try and hold off the Pro-Am car, but he's also not going to lie down for the youngster Max Hofer at the wheel of the Audi. Hofer to the inside line, and through he goes, as Osaka ends up running wide there at Poo on Max Hofer, up into 5th overall, 6th overall once again. And Alexander Francorchamps, while we looked away from the AM battle, has moved up into 2nd in AM as well. So all change throughout the order at the moment. Max Hofer up into 6th overall. And that also, of course, is 2nd in 3rd in Pro-Am at the moment as well. And then, of course, up in 2nd in AM now is Alexander Francorchamps. Car 777 is in. 8-second penalty for Carol Bash, owing to a pit stop that was lower than the handicap. 8-second time penalty to be added to the race time. So that will be applied retroactively at the end of the race, but an overly quick pit stop costing Carol Bash there.
Yeah, absolutely right, and that's another devastating penalty that we've seen through the course of this race. Seen one at 10 seconds, obviously for Gilardoni, as we mentioned earlier on, but now an 8-second now for Carol Bash, which I'm sure they'll be disappointed with. But obviously, rules are rules, Adam. They've got to be applied. As we're now watching the cars that make their way through. Max Hofer, who put in that initial burst of pace at the start of the race, taking that early lead. We saw them obviously trying to whittle their way through. Of course, it's got a little bit more to do now. As we now see the cars make their way through. Started P7, this car, and found its way to the front 10. Max Hofer leaving no stone unturned. He was so quick at the very start, and now he needs to put that pace into practice yet again, because he's going to be trying to find Carol Bash for that 5th place later on. Of course, he's currently sat in 6th. As per the overtake that he made just now on Adam Osaka. You'll see him round this next right at Malmedy, and he'll take the descent now down through towards the Brussels corner at turn 8. And there you can see our current race leader, Ben Jahites, in very, very clean air right now, and that gap is starting to spring outwards again. Remember, it was near enough 6.5 seconds when we looked on that one occasion. Since then, Hites has put in a little bit of extra work. It's now registering an 8.7 gap between him and his teammate Gilardoni. Of course, the 2 Oregon cars, despite teammates, we saw obviously a little bit of a collision at Paul Ricard. They still want to fight for positions on track. And I know that Glenn Van Berlo himself, obviously partnering Gilardoni in that other Oregon car, he himself made a statement saying to me that he wanted more. He wanted an overall race win for his team and his car. Obviously, currently at this moment in time, it doesn't look like they're going to grasp that, but certainly they'll be pleased that it is at least an Oregon car on top spot, at least for now. Ben Jahites taking charge, starting to spring ahead now from Gilardoni in 2nd place.
So Ben Jahites, who we watch at the moment, that 63 car, he's obviously a Chilean driver, as he gets stuck there behind Stanislav Jedlinski. Lost a couple of seconds to that, but nothing more. So 63 car on, but Ben Jahites, the Chilean driver, came up through Ferrari Challenge competition before moving into GT3 racing. We've got a replay here of Steve Jans. Oh, That's most irregular. That looks to me more like a failure. That car just stopped steering, didn't it? That was most bizarre. And where is that car on the circuit? Let's hope that Steve Jans is not adversely hindered, but that didn't look like an error, really. That looked more car than driver to me.
Yeah, I mean, very rare do we see a driver opt for a straight line in the corner.
Yes.
Very, very strange. But nevertheless, might be a minor fault. Hopefully it's corrected itself. It looked like he was okay afterwards, so hopefully nothing terminal.
Well, he's 18 seconds slower than he's supposed to be, 20 seconds slower than he's supposed to be in the middle sector of the lap. So I think that car might currently be in the process of limping back to the pit lane. And if that is the case, then that, of course, means the Pro-Am leadership will change. Carol Bash will be waiting in the wings to take the Pro-Am lead once all is decided. You see the gap between the two Oregon Lamborghinis going up or down? Let's find out. 7.4. Well, it stays about the same at the moment between Hites and Giardoni. Benji Hites continuing to push at the wheel of the leading car overall at the moment. Here we see the number 4 car, Frank Bird, still third overall at the moment, still very much in a contention for a race win here, particularly if we have any other dramas in this race. And predictably, the 911 car is in, and that front wheel on the left corner looks like it's, yes, look, you can see now as they pull it up on the jacks, that front wheel is hanging askew. Front suspension damage then for Steve Jans, or a failure of some description on the front left, and that has taken the Pro-Am leader out of contention. Meanwhile, that was PT Biron Bakhti dispatching Janine Schaffner, not for position, mind you. Janine Schaffner now with another Mercedes all over the back of her, and it's Frank Bird, sorry, at the wheel of the number 4 car, looking to the inside but not finding a way through just yet. We are rapidly approaching that driver change window, 3 minutes and 15 seconds there or thereabouts until the window opens. And Frank Bird's having to really fight to try and find a way past Janine Schaffner. And Janine is also now under threat from Dexter Muller. Dexter Muller there right behind Janine Schaffner. That is now for 4th in Pro-Am. And Janine Schaffner is going to have to defend now, because having been lapped by a couple of cars, Dexter Muller has snuck up behind her. And once again, Janine and Dexter having a great scrap in the Pro-Am category in their Mercedes-AMG GT3s. Janine's car is out of the Get Speed Performance camp, SPS Automotive Performance, preparing Dexter Muller's car, which in part is also supported by Dexter's own operation, the Car Barn, which plays host to a good many of his beautiful car collection. Dexter really pressing on as he fights the opposite lock there, coming out of the La Source hairpin. Battle for 4th place, or will be 3rd place now in Pro-Am, of course, with the failure for Steve Jans. So this is for 3rd in Pro-Am, and here comes Dexter Muller. Dexter always seems to get a great run up the hill out of Radion, and once again he's drawn side by side with another driver. He's been bold on the brakes on the outside of Lecon before. On this occasion, though, he was a little more conservative about everything, and Janine Schaffner holds on to 3rd in Pro-Am for the time being. Janine under pressure, though, and Dexter Muller, he's a great friendly face in the paddock, but he's also an uncompromising racer. He'll be looking for a way past. And Janine, well, I mean, we've seen it even up against that traffic. Janine isn't one to give very easily. So that's probably why those two personalities keep clashing on track every time. Every time we come to a race meeting here in International GTOpen, Dexter and Janine end up in a scrap.
Yeah, we've seen it time and time and again. Obviously, Janine Schaffner, relentless. She doesn't want to give anything up. She never gives up. That's not her attitude. That's not the way she is certainly driven. As now we're seeing Benji Hites now in front. Remains so. 7.8 seconds between him and Gilardoni right now for 2nd place. And we've got Frank Bird then in 3rd. Carol Bash currently showing up in 4th right now, with Max Hofer in 5th. Adam Osaka still holding on to that AM lead so far, 6th place. Plenty of movements happening now. Janine Schaffner and Muller once again coming together on our timing screen, so we can now see plenty going on here on the board. And as we now watch the Team Oregon car make its way in towards the source. Like I say, we can't press enough on what a result, or what a major result this is, certainly for Team Oregon, in context of the championship, as we now take a look at this replay. Oh, that's Frank Bird making his way through, and that's Stanislav Jedlinski, if I'm not mistaken, heading through that chicane. And had to take evasive action again, managing to avoid it. Oh, very late on the brakes. Had to try and find his way through somehow. Obviously, Jedlinski providing certainly a suitable barrier at that point, and managing to execute and get around him at that part of the circuit.
It looks a little bit fraught in the first replay, and then we got the onboard, and it looked outright terrifying. Goodness me, well avoided there by Frank Bird. Meanwhile, the driver change window is open. I don't think that will affect Carol Bash, who continues to press on in the 777 car, but in comes Murat Hadaroglu. He's now handing over once again to David Fuminelli. One of the Oregon team drivers is stood there ready to go as well. I believe that's Van Berlo, and for the second time at almost the same part of the circuit, the 39 car is in the gravel. Oh, Piti Biron-Bakti, this time it is in the gravel in this Singha Racing Team TP12 entry. Whether he fell or whether he was pushed, we're not sure, but unfortunately that car is now embedded into the gravel at a very difficult place just as the pit window opens. Well, that could be very dramatic stuff indeed. 55 car is in. That will be Jamie Stanley getting back behind the wheel of Laurent de Meus's car, and that was a mistake for Piti by the looks of it. There wasn't anyone anywhere near him, unfortunately, just off into the gravel. Very hard to get back out of that gravel around Lecombe. Safety car is on standby at the moment, so we could be about to see our second safety car in the race. We do see our second safety car of the race, and once again, it has come in the midst of the pit stop window. That is going to jumble up everything once again. Oh, goodness me. Well, once again, Spa throwing up its challenges for the drivers, us in the commentary box, and indeed the crews down there in the pit lane here at Spa. There is a safety car. It picks up Ben Jahites, who has just received a 5-second time penalty owing to track limits. I really need to start making notes of all these time penalties, because there are so many to be applied at the end of the race that it's going to get rather confusing in the closing laps at this stage. George, if you will take over, I'm going to make some notes.
Well, ultimately at this part, I mean, what we've got to look at is the fact. Oh, interesting. Right.
That's not meant to happen. Safety car just allowed the leading car through. That's not good. Ben Jahites has been allowed by the safety car. I think a case of mistaken identity may have just occurred there, and Ben Jahites has been let past.
I was about to say that this is great news for Frank Bird, because of course they've obviously had time penalties inflicted on the top two drivers already, not to mention now we've got the group being brought closer together. I was about to say look how close they're going to be, but obviously now, given the fact that Ben Jahites has stormed forward, that's pretty much nullified my point here at this moment. But there you can see Kevin Ghilardoni just warming up the car. And we're going to have a look now. This is the replay. And you can see the green there flashing on top. Now,
yeah, so the lights went... He's been waved by. He just saw the wave there. No, no, no. That wasn't the car we needed. That was the car we needed at the front of the queue, unfortunately. So I think some miscommunications going on in the safety car there. And unfortunately, it may cause some headaches upstairs. We'll have to wait and see how that's dealt with. All the cars going off on the runoff area there to avoid the marshals and the live snatch situation going on there at Lecombe. Piti Biron-Bakti will be recovered again, and for the second time in the race, the car will be dragged out of the gravel and continue on. It's been a fraught debut, I'd say, in International GTOpen for the Singha Racing Team TP12 outfit, supported by Earl Bamber Motorsports. But great to see that they once again keep trying, just trying to get all the gravel out of the car at the moment is PT Birambakti.
Yeah, absolutely right. And there you can see once again the car of Kevin Gillardoni just furiously warming up the tyres. In behind as well, you can see the man-filtered Team Landgraf well, certainly Martin Conrad making its way through the next left. And, plenty of others there. Janine Schaffner also making her way around too. The car's all getting nice and tight together now. Obviously well, in preparation of getting the race back underway. And certainly lots to look at here. But the big question is, though, at the moment, what are they going to do about this Benjahites scenario? Of course, allowing the car to go through. Is it a case of the stewards, Adam? Do you think that they're going to have to sort of step in and say, look, Benja, can you just hold off, allow the safety car to re-overtake?
Yeah, I think that's maybe what they're going to have to do. It's a tricky situation. In fact, I think what they're going to have to do is just release everybody. That looks like what they're doing at the moment. It's probably a wise decision. Team managers, car 63, to race control immediately. So that's them trying to negotiate exactly what to do with the Benjahites situation at the moment. But it looks as though they're settling for just sending everyone around, especially now that the obstruction of that caused the safety car is now gone. I guess what they're going to do now... Benjahites very sportingly is sat there waiting. Now, but they are, of course, under safety car conditions, but not behind a safety car. If we sound confused, it's because we are, and frankly, I think everyone is a little bit confused at the moment. It's a difficult situation to manage this, but it's something that does happen. It's not a unique situation. I know there have been a couple of instances in British GT over the years, for example, where we've had this kind of thing happen, where just mistaken identity with the cars, one car's waved by, and then just as it drives off, they go, oh, no. But very well managed on this occasion. There have been instances where it's not been well managed in other series, but it looks as though we're doing a good job of it at the moment. Everyone is now running without the safety car there, but still under safety car conditions. I imagine they're going to just stop the safety car and pick them back up somewhere around the circuit, perhaps at the start-finish line, and hopefully get things underway in due course. Of course, the safety car window should extend with this as well, per what we saw in the first window when we had a safety car earlier on. But there you see the top two at the moment still. Benjahites, Kevin Giardoni. Two drivers that still owe us a pit stop as well. They, of course, have to hand back over, in the case of the 63, to Leonardo Polcini, and the 19 to Glenn Van Berlo. No consecutive stints allowed in this event. The cars are, well, the teams are required to switch drivers in every pit stop window. There is Dexter Muller, or is actually, yes, it is still Dexter Muller at the wheel of the 54 car. Currently sat third in Pro-Am as well. In fact, no, they're fourth in Pro-Am, of course. Carol Bash is ahead, but just not on the timing screens there at the moment. Benjahites, though, is our race leader. And is this your first time seeing a safety car sans safety car, George?
I believe so. I think so. We haven't quite had this before, I don't think, certainly since I've been doing the championship this year. Obviously, we had a safety car at Estoril,
yes,
where, of course, we witnessed that major incident that, of course, we witnessed at that point. Thankfully, everyone was okay after that. But we're now here with a double safety car in this particular endurance race, which has certainly confused matters. I can only imagine the safety car itself must have... Obviously, when we had the first one, we know that the grid order was all mixed up and jumbled. Obviously, it's hard maybe to identify who's actually leading the classification. So I suppose he could be forgiven to a certain degree, I think, on that basis. Whether he is or not, I don't know, but we will find out. But nonetheless, it is Benjahites on top. There you can see him there, leading his fellow Oregon teammate. That is, of course, being Kevin Gillardoni. And behind, you can see Martin Conrad as well, lining up in behind him. And plenty more filtering through in behind as well as we wait for them to resume under safety car ruling. Yeah, well, still a full course yellow, still full safety car ruling, but they're just waiting to catch up with the safety car itself. As you can now see, they're making their way up through the highest elevation point. Amazing how steep that part of the circuit really is. You can see the yellow flags waved on the side of the track, the stewards and the marshals doing their job. And there it is, the safety car. We're back under normal service has been resumed, Adam.
Okay, well, there we go. Reset then. Safety car has been rediscovered by our leading drivers after that very, very quick lap under safety car conditions, owing to the various circumstances ongoing at the moment. And the pack will now merge together once again, and I would think potentially safety car in this lap, although there is still a tractor down at Le Com, as we see there on screen. I have to wait and see as to whether the safety car will be in this time by. Of course, they may also have to wait to actually pack everyone together still. Not everyone is there just yet. So wait and see whether or not safety car comes in. But of course, as soon as safety car does come in, then the pit window reopens again as well. And we'll have to see how that plays into things. Safety car is in this lap. Okay, so as anticipated, we are going to have green flag racing once again at the end of this lap. And once again, the car that was at least part of the reason for the safety car, that being PT Birambakdi's Porsche, is still there in the safety car queue. So I don't know if that Porsche has any connections to, I don't know, feline ancestry, but it certainly seems to have 9 lives this weekend. And they've used 2 of them in the race already. PT Birambakdi.
They've still got 7.
Still got 7. Hopefully not 7 more safety cars in 31 minutes. That would be labour intensive for all concerned. So then Hites and Giardoni at the sharp end of the pack. How many cars back is the number 4? 3 cars between the number 4 Bilstein liveried Haupt Racing Team Mercedes that you see there in 3rd place, and the 2 Oregon Lamborghinis. So the point you were making previously, George, this has brought the Bird and Love number 4 car, the Haupt Racing Team car, right back into things. It's also brought Max Hofer right up into contention as well, and corrected some of the big gaps that had formed in the first safety car period. So it's certainly interesting that we've had this second safety car. What effect will it have on the remaining half an hour of racing? Let's wait and see. I think we'll see a couple of cars scramble into pit lane as soon as this safety car is, as soon as they get to the pit lane. I think we're probably going to have 2 or 3 cars at minimum dive in. Here comes the queue now. Does anyone come in at the sharp end? Doesn't look like it, although Giardoni, yes, Giardoni did go in, wasn't quite sure, and Frank Bird in as well. So 2nd and 3rd place overall have decided to pull in, and also, just to note there as well, that 2nd and 3rd cars in the queue are fighting for 3rd and 4th place in AM. That was a battle for 11th overall and the AM 3rd place at the moment. That was between Conrad and Jamie Stanley, so that could be interesting to keep tabs on. Glenn Van Berlo, though, taking over from Kevin Giardoni for this final stint of the race. Dino Steiner will be taking over the number 3 car. There is Jordan Love and Frank Bird's car in as well. Hites continues on then at the head of the order without anyone particularly fighting him for the lead. That might be of benefit to him, and that AM battle is getting very interesting. It's a pair of Ferraris up against the Mercedes. It is Jamie Stanley now ahead. As let's take a look at what happened. It was side by side between Stanley and Conrad. Stanley had the position but ran it out wide. However, he has remained ahead of the Mercedes. And Charlie Hollings is involved in that one as well. So you got a nice 3-car scrap for 3rd in the AM class at the moment. Jordan Love is now heading back out onto the circuit, just behind Glenn Van Berlo as well. We saw Van Berlo just through the windscreen, just ahead as well. And of course, one thing we have to consider as well is that the 2 Lamborghinis both have a penalty. Time penalty because of track limits violations. So that number 4 car could well be benefiting in a major way here. We've got 11 minutes now of the window left to go. They've added 10 minutes because of that safety car period to the pit window. And I think potentially, if a few of the teams hadn't realised that, for instance, the number 3 car, maybe if they hadn't realised that, Steiner and Karel Basch, they'll be quite, Steiner and Max Hofer, they'll be quite aggrieved because they'd have liked to keep Hofer in the car had they known. But Dino Steiner is in now, and he will be pressing on until the end of the race. This AM class battle continues then for third in class, make that second in class potentially, because Stephen Earle, I think, is just in the pits now. And contact between Hollings and Conrad gets sent into a bit of a roundabout situation there. Oh, it was a brave move from Charlie Hollings, a little bit too brave as it turned out. He and Martin Conrad with a bit of a clod together over the sound of carbon fibre meeting in the middle there, unfortunately. Martin Conrad, well, at least he didn't end up embedded into the gravel trap. But he's lost time and position as a result of that one, from second in class down to fourth.
Yeah, not good at all. Got very close between the pair. Martin Conrad now moving down into what will be fourth in the AM category. This is the moment that we witnessed heading around the source, and he went for the 2.
Oy, oy, oy.
Oh, very late on the brakes there indeed. And unfortunately, that is what's led to the current set of affairs. Obviously, Charles Hollings, very, very brave heading towards that section.
Yeah, and his car was smoking just heading out towards Eau Rouge as well.
Some damage.
So I suspect there probably is some damage there. I think more than anything, Charlie Hollings will have been caught out maybe by Jamie Stanley's braking point. I don't think he was trying to make a move on 2 cars at once. Charlie's a wise driver. I don't think he'd be trying that necessarily. But unfortunately, maybe a little bit of damage. We'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, here we have is this the lead situation post-pit stop? Yes, it is. Leonardo Polcini has just come back out onto the circuit, and he does so just ahead of Glenn Van Berlo, just ahead of Jordan Love. The overall top 3 are closing in. You see there the Mercedes carrying so much more momentum through Eau Rouge and Rabion, and we could well see Van Berlo now under pressure from Jordan Love. Van Berlo, the Dutch driver, goes defensive here. Jordan Love trying to go all the way around the outside. Has he made it stick? Where is the Lamborghini? Is it still there? Yes, it is. Oh, contact between the 2 of them. Jordan Love had to give space there. Contact between the 2. Van Berlo remains in second place. Jordan Love there. Oh, that was certainly a bit of a hair-raising moment and a little bit of contact. Hopefully, though, no damage from the number 4 car.
Harum scarum here at Spa, certainly to say the least. Jordan Love trying his damnedest to try and get ahead there of Glenn Van Berlo. Unfortunately, unable to pull it off. Looked like he might have had the nose in front heading through into Malmedy, but as soon as they came to Malmedy, it was indeed Glenn Van Berlo who managed to find his way through. As you can now see, all still in tandem. You've got Leonardo Polcini in this position, within behind Glenn Van Berlo, in behind 2. So you've got 2 Oregon cars within behind the Bilstein livery as well. Here is the instant replay. There you can see now, oh, outside line, oh, they rub shoulders heading up through Les Combes, and it looked like you could just see him fighting Jordan Love, trying to keep the car within the track, and coming in towards Malmedy. It would then be Glenn Van Berlo who would be able to hold on to his position. Obviously had the favourable line heading into Malmedy, and you could see them look level with each other, equilateral, and it would be Glenn Van Berlo who would hold on. Here we can see the onboard replay, and you can just see moving to the inside Glenn Van Berlo to defend the approach heading in towards Les Combes, and that allowed, of course, Jordan Love to come up alongside heading in towards Malmedy, but it wasn't enough because indeed Glenn Van Berlo came through, and a little knock, a little reminder there for later on in the race as well, once they go side by side. But still, great to see this battling resuming here at Spa.
Always wince on behalf of my wallet when GT3 cars end up in collisions. Leonardo Polcini, though, our race leader in the 63 car at the moment, but of course that car does have a penalty hanging over its head. That being a 5-second penalty, sorry, for the 63 car, 10 seconds for the 19, I believe it is. So at the moment, the 63 car could well be, well, leading on the roads, but not leading by the end of the race if things stay as they are. As it stands for Jordan Love, really, he just needs to stay near the 2 Oregon team Lamborghinis, and potentially he will have done enough to claim a race win in the postscript.
Yeah, definitely. It's massive, certainly in the context of the championship, as we've alluded to. Leonardo Polcini, in an interview we did, obviously referencing his qualifying performance. He said that this race was mightily important to Oregon's championship hopes, and he has confirmed that certainly with their performance here today, to say the least. We've got some more movements happening further down. David Fuminelli moving ahead there, Kiki Sagnana. More also happening further back too, but as we're now watching, certainly as they wind their way through the Milstein livery, trying to close up once again. This is the move we might have seen earlier. Okay.
That's Carol Bash leaving the nose up the inside of Charlie Hollings, who's really having an embattled stint, I'd say, at the wheel of that 77 car. Good to see that we're still running at racing speed, but unfortunately it ended up facing the wrong way at the bus stop, and Carol Bash continues on. He's currently our overall race leader because he hasn't stopped in the 777 car yet. Well, goodness me, the dramas for Charlie Hollings just keep on coming, don't they?
They just never stop, certainly at this moment. And he's had a bit of an aggrieved stint, I think, at this point, but he'll try and calm himself, get himself collected and continue. We've still got quite a long way to go, within the 22nd minute mark now, remaining in this session. And there you can see, at this moment in time, Leonardo Polcini leading the contingent around the source. He will then make his way up through towards Eau Rouge and rally on before the Kemmel Straights, and he's pulling the gap away now between him and Van Berlo quite significantly. Jordan Love still right in the fight between him and Van Berlo, but let's not forget those time penalties, because they will be crucial towards the end. That is, unless Polcini can't find the deficit, but you never know. Certainly a man of his talents, a man of his pace, that can launch a car certainly into the top-end order, as we witnessed in qualifying after that epic display in Q2. Of course, that would lead to the averages being listed and that Oregon car being named as pole sitter for the start of this race. And you'd be a fool to think that Polcini will go down without a fight. So there you can see now Jordan Love trying to gain and gain and gain. Looks like Van Berlo's marshalling him well at this moment in time. Was a second when we last flew through the checkpoint. And further back you can see as well Dino Steiner with a lot to climb too, but still very much in this Pro-Am fight. It certainly has been a massive race. Certainly great to see endurance racing making a return to GTOpen. We've seen absolutely all sorts here, Adam.
Yeah, we have, certainly. And Jordan Love, we follow at the moment. Car 77 and 777 under investigation. No shock there, causing a collision after that moment down at the bus stop. And mention it, Carol Bash comes in. There's only 2 minutes and 15 remaining on this extended pit window. Marcin Jedlinski handing over, or rather being handed over to, he will take over the car for the final stint of the race. Now, I think he's actually going to come back out, not a million miles away from the back of these top three, but he will certainly be off the race lead after this pit stop. The question is, where will he be relative to Dino Steiner when it comes to the Pro-Am results? That's going to be the key factor there. We'll keep an eye on the gap between Jedlinski and Steiner as the the 777 car comes back out onto the circuit. And of course, there's also the small matter of that investigation hanging over their heads as well. We're going to have to see what happens there. Looks to me as though Van Berlo is lap on lap, just losing a tiny bit of time to Jordan Love. In fact, their times were only hundredths apart on that last lap, but Jordan Love just kind of hanging around on the back of that multicoloured number 19 Lamborghini from the Oregon team stable. And Jordan, the Australian racer, I'm sure he'd want to try and get past Van Berlo, although maybe the team coaching him through the penalty situation at the moment and saying, hey, look, as it stands, we cross the line behind, but we finish in front. However, that's not the case for Polcini, I don't think. If Polcini continues to set the fast laps that he's setting, getting away from these two, then Jordan Love may end up finishing between the two Lamborghinis in the postscript once these penalties are applied.
Be a very welcome debut, certainly coming here to Spa in the International GT Open, certainly for the likes of Jordan Love and Frank Bird. And they will be delighted with how things have been mapped out so far. Currently standing on the podium as things sit. Further back, of course, Dino Steiner very much in the fight. David Fuminelli starting to try and chop the wood as well. He managed to land a purple sector 1 on his previous lap, so making some good solid ground. But there you can see Jordan Love now coming through turns 12 and 13. Ahead, Glenn Van Berlo is with him too. Obviously, that pace is pretty much stagnating at this moment in time. The driver change is now confirmed as finished at this point, folks, with just over 17.4 minutes remaining. And, heading through this next right-hander, very shortly they will tackle the fast left of Francorchamps after turn 16. There you can see now Glenn Van Berlo hightailing through this next left. In behind as well, Jordan Love in 4th, trying to bring that gap down further and further. He needs a little bit more to try and marshal something, or at least marshal an approach then heading up towards the Kemmel Straight. I'm sure that's when he'll like to do it. We've seen quite a few moves being made there at that point, though some do favour the bus stop chicane as an opportunity for an overtake. We've seen quite a few of those today, as we now see Leonardo Polcini now affirmed in front and building that solid gap.
So just to remind you on the penalty situation with the 2 Lamborghinis as it stands, it's a 10-second penalty to be attributed to Glenn Van Berlo in that 19 car running in 2nd place. So that would mean that he's going to really have to pull out a mega next few laps in order to even try and hold on to that 2nd overall. For Polcini, it's just 5 seconds of penalty currently attributed to him for after the race. I believe Jordan Love and the number 4 Houch Racing team don't have any penalties attributed to them, but I'm working to try and confirm that at the moment. So as it stands, theoretically, well, if the race were to stop right now, Jordan Love would take it by 0.4 of a second. But with each passing lap, Leonardo Polcini goes quicker than the 2 cars behind him and brings himself into more and more of a chance of taking the win, even with the penalty in mind. There is a 777 car of Karel Bash. He's some 30 seconds, sorry, Karel Bash is not at the wheel, it's Martin Jedlinski, but it hasn't changed on the timing and scoring. So Jedlinski now at the wheel of that car. And the gap between the 2 of the Pro-Am runners at the sharp end, Dino Steiner 2nd in class and 5th overall, it's 32 seconds. So Steiner is going to have to work very hard indeed to try and challenge for the Pro-Am lead. He's also going to maybe have to worry about David Fuminelli behind. 27 seconds the gap between Steiner and Fuminelli, but the last lap Fuminelli was over 5 seconds faster on that lap, so Fuminelli could be charging here. I think perhaps Jedlinski is a bridge too far. However, Dino Steiner could be catchable for David Fuminelli.
He could be. He registered a purple 1st sector on that previous lap, so Fuminelli certainly does have the pace right now, and he's starting to make a charge now on Dino Steiner for that overall 5th position, as we now watch Glenn Van Berlo head down in towards the bus stop chicane, this onboard camera, where we get to see exactly what the drivers are seeing right now. Coming through this next left, they'll then make their way down the start-finish straight, then be faced with La Source. You can see there further up that Leonardo Polcini still continuing to try and bridge that gap. Jordan Love still working hard to try and bring the gap between him and Van Berlo right back in too. It looks like, though, that Van Berlo is trying to kick on at this point. Certainly managed to, I think, increase his gap between him and Jordan Love at this moment in time. So at this stage, Van Berlo still has a chance to try and shake that time penalty.
Yeah, Jordan Love had a really poor final sector on that last lap after a PB in the 2nd sector, so it does seem as though he had a bit of a struggle on that lap. Van Berlo extending the advantage. You see the gap between 1st and 3rd place at the moment out to 6 seconds, and that would mean that Polcini would, even with a 5-second penalty, claim the victory here today. So Polcini working hard once again. He's been on great form this weekend, it must be said. Leonardo Polcini has been on the move. We keep seeing that number 54 car, Yannick Mettler, just behind Jordan Love. That car is a lap down, currently running 4th in Pro-Am with Yannick Mettler at the wheel. He's quite a way clear of Moritz Kranz, 5th in class as well. So it looks as though 8th overall, 4th in class is going to be the ceiling for Yannick Mettler here today, along with Dexter Muller. But again, they keep scoring solid points this season. SPS always seem to be right there at the sharp end, if not on the podium, close by. And at the end of the day, points scoring is the most important thing over the course of the season.
It is. Points obviously mean prizes at the end of the day, as the saying goes, and certainly Polchini has earmarked this particular race as one that he thinks Oregon could score some big points, and certainly on the table of things, they're embattled in a fight between them and Optimum Motorsport. Certainly with that car out of the race, that was a huge, obviously it's a huge opportunity for Oregon to really strike at this moment, obviously with just a certain number of races left to go. So the opportunities, the windows for opportunities starts to shut upon you if you're not careful.
I mean, let's recap that actually, of course, as we approach this final dozen minutes of the race. If you are just tuning in, our championship leaders, Nick Moss, Joe Osborne, they didn't even make it to Roe Rouge on the first lap of the race after contact and a moment down at La Source, got tagged into a spin by the 33 Team GT Mercedes-AMG GT3 of Florian Scholzer. Neither Florian or Nick was able to continue on in the race after the collision down at La Source, so our championship leader gone. Then the Pro-Am Championship leader, Adam Christodoulou and Rima Jafali's Weber Motorsport number 18 car. That car was retired after a collision between Christodoulou and Earl Bamber earlier in the race up at Le Combe, actually at Malmedy. And Christodoulou then, the Pro-Am Championship leaders, along with Rima Jafali, just 6 points clear in that championship coming into this weekend, and that will have been completely eroded away with the events of today's race. Just 6 points in it coming into this round in the Pro-Am title hunt. And of course, double points on offer for this endurance race here this weekend. So championship implications were always going to be on the table here today. And it struck 2 of 3 championship leaders here in the International GTOpen paddock.
Yeah, absolutely. They could see Kevin Gillardoni previous in shot, just watching on as his teammate Glenn Van Berlo makes his way around Pouon at the moment in second place. Polchini himself currently in front. The gap now 3.7 at this moment in time. Obviously, we've got the penalty situation to come into factor as well. Of course, Jordan Love still very much in the frame for a solid P2 should it remain this way. Obviously, we'll have to try and see what happens when the clock ticks downwards. Obviously, we're nearly in the final 10 minutes of this race here at Spa, and what a race it certainly has been. You haven't been short of drama, to say the least. That opening lap certainly did leave us with certainly some major things to look at, with obviously the demise of Optimum Motorsport at the very start, and then following suit, we saw many others do similar things, but nonetheless, the overtakes have been sensational. Polchini's driven a superb race himself, as well as Van Berlo in second, with Jordan Love still in the fight as well. A welcome debut here at the GTOpen Championship. We've got some confirmations here as well, Adam, concerning some investigations.
Yes, so Charlie Hollings is going to be reprimanded for that collision we saw earlier on with Martin Conrad down at La Source. However, no further action in that moment between himself and Carol Bash, which is, of course, what we saw at turn 18. The car sent into a spin, Charlie Hollings, in that moment, and that's certainly just compounding what's been a difficult run of things for Charlie Hollings. Now, Hollings, I don't think Hollings would be at the wheel now. I think we've had a few driver swaps that haven't been acknowledged on the timing and scoring, because it should be Omar Jackson at the wheel of that car now, and the car is in the 223s. I would suggest that is actually Omar Jackson at the wheel of the car now, but it was Charlie Hollings, I think, at the wheel when all of the dramas were kicking off. We also know, for example, as you see, we saw on the graphics, that Carol Bash is listed in the Pro-Am leading car at the moment. It isn't him there at the moment. It's Marcin Jedlinski at the wheel of the 777 car. So it does seem as though the timing and scoring hasn't acknowledged all of the driver changes on this occasion, but we know the drivers at the sharp end of the order for sure. Leonardo Polchini, of course, still there at the head of the order, still lapping quickly at the head of this pack, and he wants to try and make sure he claims that win, even with a 5-second penalty hanging over the heads of both himself and Benjahites. As it stands, the penalty would not stop him from winning. He's got 8 seconds over the car in third place, Jordan Love, and Glenn Van Berlo in the 19 Oregon Lamborghini has a 10-second penalty to serve in his own right. Come the end of the race, it will be applied at the end of this race. Jordan Love also coming under pressure from Yannick Mettler, even though it's not for position. Those two Mercedes have been running in convoy for a while. We saw Frank Bird, he's watching tensely, certainly, at the moment, from the Haupt Racing Team garage. At the moment, Haupt aren't mathematically set to be the winners once the penalties are applied at the end of the race, but he's going to be willing on Jordan every inch of the way.
Yeah, he certainly will do. Coming through bus stop, you can just see them getting closer and closer and closer. Certainly Yannick Mettler trying to maybe get himself ahead, try and take, at least make some progress at this point. Obviously, this won't be an on-track for classification battle, but at this time, certainly Jordan Love will have other things on his mind himself, because Van Berlo's ahead of him, and obviously concerning the penalties, Jordan Love will be hoping that he can at least try and marshal in some of the deficit, the delta, in order to maintain a possible chance of a P2 at this point in the race. We'll have to wait and see, though, folks. They now make the climb through Eau Rouge and, of course, Radion. Yannick Mettler now trying to gain a little bit of time, getting in the slipstream of that Bilstein livery as they now make their way up the almighty climb, this high elevation part of the track. Again, further back, you've got the Singer Motorsport car as well, getting into the swing of things as well as they come into Les Combes. Still no changes just yet. Still Yannick Mettler trying to pepper on the rear end of Jordan Love's car, but Jordan Love will remain in third place, never mind the overtake in the first place.
I like that, trying to pepper Jordan Pepper. He's done some running in International GTOpen in years gone by. Nice reference, George.
Did you like that?
You definitely meant it. There are the two Mercedes running through the Jackie X corner at the moment, and Yannick Mettler pressuring Jordan Love, even though it's not for position. These two running in tandem. And there's Earl Bamber. It's certainly been a fraught performance for the 39 car, the Singer Racing Team TP12. At the moment, they're down in 15th overall. Unfortunately, that's still 6th in Pro-Am, to be fair. A lot of Pro-Am teams have had dramas here today, but Earl Bamber and Chadoroglu, sorry, Biron Bakti, PT Biron Bakti have had certainly a dramatic race. Both drivers have ended up in the gravel at various points today. So not the most straightforward debut in International GTOpen for the Singer Racing Team, but nonetheless good to see them here, and we hope to welcome them back in the near future. Polcini still 4 seconds clear of Glenn Van Berlo at the head of the order at the moment. Here is Van Berlo, the young Dutchman, pressing on at this stage. Van Berlo, of course, no stranger to the paddock headed this year. He did race in Euro Formula Open back in 2019, when I think he was 16 at the start of the year, or 17 at the start of the year. A young driver is Glenn Van Berlo, only 20 years old at the start of this season, and continuing to improve, continuing to cut his teeth and learn his craft in the world of GT competition. Leonardo Polcini, though, at the moment, is the fastest of all out there on circuit. Leonardo Polcini seemingly has gelled with this circuit like no other this weekend. Of course, he was the fastest driver in Q2 yesterday, and he did enough to secure pole position for the team, for the 63 car on average across the two sessions. We combined the two lap times as average times for the qualifying order, for the grid order for this race. So both drivers had to contribute to the qualifying time as well, which made things very interesting. And Polcini, along with Benjahites, has been exemplary so far this weekend. There's still that penalty looming over their heads, still a 5-second penalty to be applied to the 63 car. What have we got going on here? This is third in the AM class. Stephen Earle under pressure from Martin Conrad at the moment for third in AM and 11th overall. Stephen Earle, the good doctor, is going to have to hold off Martin Conrad at the moment. Martin, who's had a stellar year thus far. They've been dominating the AM class. The man filter team Landgraf crew of Alexander Krakowina and Martin Conrad. Martin also took an overall win in the Bathurst 12 Hours the week before we arrived to Paul Ricard last month. But now Martin trying to find his way past Stephen Earl. Stephen, who's been on great form this weekend. He looked a bit off the pace at Paul Ricard, I think still feeling maybe the effects from the big crash that he had at the Estoril round. It looked as though Conrad was priming Stephen Earl for a move, but we didn't see whether or not the move was made. But a great battle going on there for third in the AM class. Here is the number 4 car of Jordan Love. And now we go back to this AM battle. Okay, so Stephen Earl is still there for now. Although he's a bit slower there through Pouon, isn't he? Is that the opportunity that Martin Conrad needs? Certainly Martin thinks so. Trying to squeeze the power down as much as he dares, trying to find a way around Stephen Earl. I remind you that we have +1 lap once this clock ticks down to 0 as well. The race distance, 2 hours, 20 minutes +1 lap. So once the clock hits 0, that means we're officially on the penultimate lap of the race. 25 car. Looming large, though, in the mirrors of Stephen Earl. And Stephen is pressing on at the moment, and he would love an AM podium along with Owen Zanotti. That would be the first AM podium for the duo. Dino Steiner, meanwhile, has been caught by David Fuminelli. We forecast this one about 16 minutes ago. We said that Fuminelli might just catch Steiner before the end of the race, and so it has come to pass. But will Fuminelli pass? That's the question. This is for second in Pro-Am, and here comes Fuminelli all over the back of Dino Steiner. Steiner goes to the inside, goes defensive as they run up the Kemmel straight towards Le Combe, and Fuminelli with a good run surely has it. Yes, he does. Late on the brakes, late as he dares. And David Fuminelli, on behalf of himself, Kessel Racing, and co-driver Murat Hadaroglu, has moved into second in Pro-Am in the final gasps of this race. Marcin Dębinski in the 777 car that leads Pro-Am is too far ahead of him for that to really be a factor, but still Martin Conrad is trying to find a way around Stephen Earl, and this time he's very, very late on the brakes. Has he tried too hard? Well, he's gone a little bit off the track there, but he seems to have got it done. Martin Conrad late on the brakes there. Just about got the car stopped. Here's a replay of a very similar move there from David Fuminelli. Fuminelli, though, just about made the apex. Martin Conrad has moved into third place in AM then with that move. Stephen Earl and Owen Zanotti may have to wait a little bit longer for an AM class podium. Clock is about to hit the 0, which means we will officially be on the penultimate lap of racing. There we see that third place battle. It looks to be decided. Third place in AM in favour of Martin Conrad. Martin has already built an advantage over Stephen Earl. Here's the 63 car, Leonardo Polcini. The clock has hit 0. So we are on to the penultimate lap of the race. This time by the pit lane, Polcini will start his final lap of the race. The car that started on pole position hasn't been in the lead the entire way, but certainly they've been in the hunt all race long. At this stage, the gap between Polcini and Jordan Love is 9.9 seconds. Polcini does have a penalty for track limits to be applied at the end of the race, but that's only 5 seconds in length. Therefore, Polcini will still claim the win because Glenn van Berlo has a 10-second penalty to serve, and there was some gravel being kicked up there by the looks of it. Not sure if there was an off up there, but it doesn't look like anyone has gone missing. Just ahead of this 63 car is Kiki Saknana. He's well on his way to a huge success for both himself and Adam Osaka. On to the last lap goes the number 63 car, though, and Leonardo Polcini turns into the source to begin his final lap of racing. There goes the 19 car of Van Berlo. The gap is going down. Glenn Van Berlo currently quicker than Polcini, but of course it means little once the penalties are applied. Van Berlo has been trying to make that 10-second gap that he needs over Jordan Love in third place, but I think Jordan Love will ultimately be promoted to second place once the penalties are served at the end of this one. There's Kiki Saknana, the current leader in AM, 7th overall as well for Kiki Saknana and Adam Osaka. What a weekend that would be for the Get Speed Performance team. Perhaps it's no surprise that the Get Speed crew are excelling in the endurance race format. After all, they've had so much success at the Nürburgring 24 Hours over the years. Kiki Saknana there, slowing up to allow Polcini through. He's got a comfortable margin over the car that sits second in AM, so he can afford to be careful here as the leading cars come by. Bulletin on the screen, car 25 must give position back to car number 11. So Martin Conrad has been judged to have passed Stephen Earl in a less than legal fashion. Of course, he was late on the brakes, but he cut across Lecombe to actually gain the position, and Martin Conrad has been instructed to hand the position back. He's going to need to do that and then try and get back around Stephen Earl if he possibly can on the final lap. That could be a late and interesting battle on the final lap of the race for third place in AM. But our race winner is just a couple of corners away from sealing the deal. Leonardo Polcini, along with Ben Jahites, is about to cross the line to take the win here. After 2 hours and 20 minutes of racing at Spa, it is Leonardo Polcini who crosses the line to take the win, along with Ben Jahites. And Polcini and Hites should move back into the championship lead as a result of that. The penalties have now been applied, and what we were discussing before has been confirmed. Polcini takes the win with the penalty applied by just 4.8 seconds over Jordan Love, and Glenn Van Berlo demoted to third place because of a 10-second penalty. Karel Bash has taken the Pro-Am win along with Marcin Jedlinski. Jedlinski, who is of course in the car at the moment, that should move them into the Pro-Am championship lead as well, with Rima Jafali and Adam Christodoulou failing to finish. Fuminelli will cross the line for second in Pro-Am and 5th overall shortly. Kiki Saknana has already crossed the line to take 7th overall and the AM class victory. Huge congratulations to Kiki and Adam Osaka. Now I believe Jamie Stanley will cross the line for second in AM. The bigger question though is whether Stephen Earl is going to be able to hold off Martin Conrad. In fact, I believe the answer is no. Martin Conrad did allow Stephen Earl through and has now gone back past again. So Martin Conrad has re-overtaken Stephen Earl and will take third in the AM class behind Jamie Stanley and Kiki Saknana. But this man, Leonardo Polcini, cool, calm and collected as ever, has just taken the win, gives the car, the noble steed, a pat. And sure enough, Leonardo Polcini and Ben Jahites have re-established their championship campaign with this overall victory here today in the double points paying 2-hour 20-minute endurance race here at Spa-Francorchamps. There is Jordan Love out of the number 4 car, which claims second place. A great debut for Haupt Racing Team to take second there, as you can see on screen. Giardoni and Van Berlo taking third ultimately. Jedlinski and Bash taking 4th overall and the Pro-Am honours. Murat Hadaroglu and David Fuminelli taking 5th. Sixth place going to Dino Steiner and Max Hofer. Sixth overall. And third in Pro-Am, Kiki Saknana and Adam Osaka taking the Am class honours. And seventh overall, Muller and Mettler taking eighth overall and fourth in Pro-Am. Schaffner and Kranz in ninth. DeMeus and Stanley claiming second in Am here this weekend, as well as 10th overall. Krakowina and Martin Conrad taking 11th place and third in Pro-Am, just ahead of Stephen Earle and Erwin Zanotti. Omar Jackson and Charlie Hollings in 13th, Jed Lindsay and Koronovsky taking 14th, Birom Dakti and Bapta, the Singha Racing Team guys, having a very difficult day, but still seeing the flag on their GT Open debut. Retirements for the 911 Get Speed car, Rima Jafali and Adam Christodoulou in the Thieber Motorsport machine. Team GT's number 33 didn't see the finish, and nor did Nick Moss's Optimum Motorsport car. There's your championship order then, as it stands. Benji Hites and Leonardo Polcini will be our championship leaders by 10 points over the sister car from the Oregon Racing Team stable. And that is this car of Glenn Van Berlo and Kevin Giardoni, just 10 points behind after this one. It firmly re-establishes their chances of championship glory this year. A great debut for Jordan Love and Frank Bird and the Haupt Racing Team. But our winners, Leonardo Polcini and Benji Hites, the 63 crew, victorious at Spa.
Benji Hites, sorry, Leonardo Polcini, winners of this very special round of the GT Open here at Spa on double length. Benji, how you see it?
Yeah, it was very difficult this weekend for us. We did a mega good job with the team for the car, getting a good setup, and Leo also made a very good job. And the race was starting from the first lap. I lose the position and I get it back. And then we had a really good pace with the car, and we could keep in first position. Also with the safety car, we were getting margin and losing it, but finally we crossed the checkered line in first place, so I'm really happy for everyone.
And of course, Leo, with your most direct opponents out of the race at the very start, this is a very good operation for the championship.
Yeah, for sure. We knew this was going to be a key race for the championship. Obviously, after the pole position of yesterday, we were very confident. Benji did a great start, and after that, we just pushed as much as we could. Benji had a really good pace also to keep our teammate behind. I'm very happy about my last stint because I put some fast laps, and at a certain point I started to feel a little bit of vibration on the rear tire, so I was just driving around to bring home the result, and I thanks Lamborghini Squadra Corse and the Oregon team.
And it's done. Well done. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations then to them. Highlights for the International GT Open Endurance race. It started off with a bang. Unfortunately, it started and ended with a thud for the 72 car, a collision between the 33 Team GT machine and Nick Moss's 72 Optimum Motorsport car to retirement for the McLaren team. Meanwhile, the Lamborghinis of Oregon team were in a scrap with the Audis. Into second place overall came the number 3 car of Max Hofer in the early stages, who was really pressing on. Frank Bird, meanwhile, was moving up the field as well in that Haupt Racing Team Mercedes, although that move would be judged to be illegal ultimately. Max Hofer finding Stanislav Jedlinski at a poor moment there. That led to a penalty for the number 3 car, and a big moment there as Earl Bamber just lost the rear of the Porsche and sent both he and Adam Christodoulou into a spin, sending Christodoulou into early race retirement. Giardoni and Van Berlo continued on in what was second on the road, but with a penalty they would unfortunately eventually be put down to third. A late safety car for the 39 car again in the gravel, this time in the hands of PT Biron Bakti. Jordan Love, as racing resumed after the final safety car, found himself right in amongst it with the Oregon team cars side by side with Glenn Van Berlo, but Van Berlo was still there on the inside, and with authority Van Berlo held on to second place. No one, though, could best Leonardo Polcini today. He and Benjihites claim the win and the championship lead in the endurance race at Spa. So then the podium's ongoing. And those are some of the AM and Pro-Am teams waiting for their podiums. And you can see the delight on the likes of Kiki Saknana's face. Kiki, who's always such a positive figure in the paddock. He's now got a huge result, and I'm sure he is going to have an even bigger smile when we go down and chat to him after today's result in the International GT Open. There's Leo Polcini in the number 63 car. Of course, the driver that took the checkered flag today.
Because you have to give back
Polcini and Hites are about to take the top step of this podium. Of course, Leonardo Polcini, always a very focused character, Leo. He's all about the racing more so than anything else. And now, I think we are having the podiums. I think Glenn Van Berlo went missing for a while there, but he now joins Kevin Giardoni up there on the third step of the podium. Third overall for them after that 10-second track limits penalty was applied at the end of the race. Jordan Love and Frank Bird are going to be on the podium next to take second overall today. Should see them up in a minute. A great debut for the Haupt Racing team in the International GT Open. Hopefully we see them again in the not too distant future. And here come our race winners, to the delight of the Oregon team personnel. They once again have the top step for the first time since Estoril. Oregon team have the top step of the podium. Leonardo Polcini and Benjihites on the podium. Congratulations then once again to Leonardo Polcini and Benjihites, our race winners, our new championship leaders after our endurance race at Spa-Francorchamps. They pose for the pictures then. You see they've got the Oregon team flag up there, asserting that this weekend belongs to them, and you'd be hard-pressed to argue with them after today's results. Leonardo Polcini, Benjihites, 10 points clear in the championship as we head to Hungaroring on the 9th and 10th of July as the champagne sprays. Polcini and Hites are now the favourites in the championship.